You are now listening to ForAllNerds Show, a podcast about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. ForAllNerds is hosted by DJ Ben Amin and Tatiana Keene-Jones. ForAllNerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
ForAllNerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/ForAllNerds.
Welcome to the Fan Bros, the show where the bros are fans. Doodle.
And what's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the ForAllNerds Show, the podcast where we discuss geek culture from the perspective of people of color, the voice of the urban geek, and as always, it's your boy, DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. Big Dick Grayson Energy, the White Man Whisperer, Chris Radnarock, A-Bay Baymax, YOLO Baggins, Lando Californication, the Ghost in the Shell Toe, here in the spaceship tonight.
Big Grayson Energy.
I am joined by
Tatiana Keene-Jones, the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as Baptin Ameriba, a.k.a. Father Stretch My Bands, a.k.a. Dame Diner Dash, a.k.a. Princess Preach, a.k.a. Sean Jean-Luc Picard, a.k.a. Lord of Lightsabers. Yeah, I was going to say it.
You were going to say what?
I said it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there we go. And, we have a special guest returning to the spaceship. I think this is, fourth time now?
Is it 4?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
It's like once a year.
Yeah.
It's Young Guru, a.k.a. Hank McCoy. I only got one a.k.a.
Oh, come on. You got more than that. You got way more than that.
A.k.a. The Glue. That's it.
There we go. The glue, Mr. Young Guru, the legend, is here in the spaceship. Oh, we got all Howard University.
Yes, sir.
HU?
Here in the spaceship tonight, other than, our engineer, Mr. A. King. You say what?
What you say?
Oh, there we go. There we go. It's a little bit. We're going to work it out. But we here in the spaceship tonight. I'm hot as hell. It feels bright and sunny up in here tonight.
I turned off one of the lights.
I
Are you
know.
okay?
Yeah, I'm just hot because there's a lot going on in the news right now. But
Lord have mercy.
a lot of clout chasing going on, folks. A lot of clout chasing going on. But, we're coming to the end of the year. Hope everyone has had a great year. We do have a lot to talk about tonight, though. And
We do. And I know, Young Guru being here, we're probably going to be arguing for like 2 hours straight. That's all right with
It's
me,
all
though.
good. That's what we do.
that's what we do. But let's see. What are we talking about this week? What has been going on? I mean, other than a certain little show, coming to its finale. And our guest here, let's get right into it. Said,
Oh, we jumping in? We jumping straight in?
we should jump right in.
Might as well. Don't waste time.
Okay.
This week, folks, Watchmen ended. If you caught our Instagram live, you saw us, talking about the finale immediately after the show went off. And after that, I talked to Guru for a second. We had a good conversation.
We had a great conversation,
Yep.
actually, yeah.
In which he said that the finale was mid-grade.
He said
It was-
mid.
It was to me for a couple reasons.
Okay,
now,
hold
first
on,
of all,
before we go, yes.
First of
Spoilers
all-
all the way out from here.
yeah, first of all,
If you haven't watched it, you need to watch
I
it.
absolutely love this show.
Okay.
It's one of the greatest television shows that I've seen in a very long time, next to my darling, right?
Next to what?
Next to my darling. Star Trek
Oh.
will always forever be the greatest television show
What else do
ever.
you think he was talking about?
What else could I be talking about? The Wire is my second favorite of all time. This is up there. I will admit that I was slow. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think it was 2 episodes in, and as usual, Ben is like, yo, hitting me, and we're going to have this discussion. And I'm like, I haven't watched it yet. He's like, are you crazy? He's like, yo, you got to go watch this right now. So I instantly fell in love because I was like, it's one of the best spinoffs, possibly the best spinoff I've ever seen. But then the subject matter obviously drew me in from the gate, where it's just like, oh, we dealing with Black Wall Street from the gate? That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the way the story was told, because some people were complaining about, well, it's sporadic and it's jumping around and it's just like dealing with different characters, but you see, at the end, that this is really you experiencing time the way that Dr. Manhattan experiences time, which I think is a great way of storytelling, where it's just like, okay, well, what part of the timeline am I in? Right? That was a great part of it. I think is one of the better things that there are so many points in comics that are done because we're actually looking at a visual medium and reading it, right? So when you're reading a comic, you have the ability to, like, say, look at billboards that are in, you know what I mean?
In the background.
That are explaining things, or some of those points that I didn't necessarily draw out of the original comic. You understand? Like, now that I went backwards, I read the comic after I watched Watchmen.
Yep.
Because the movie for Watchmen to me was just okay. It wasn't incredible. It was just like cool. But then now that this came out, it made me go back and be like, okay, well, I need to read the original comic.
That was my approach. Yeah.
I didn't read the original comic until after I watched the finale, which then further explained to me why certain things were done in the finale, the way that they were done.
That's what I was telling you.
Right? So then me and Ben were having this argument, and I was like, well, there's certain questions that were still not answered for me. Like, who is this skinny guy that just, oiled himself up and went down this drain? And I'm like, I didn't get who that was in the finale. And Ben is like, yo, you have to read the comic, because inside of the original comic, they're inserting a whole bunch of information that's not in the book. It's just these side things that you get. Yep. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now I get the understanding of why it's done that way.
Why they did the Peteypedia.
Yes.
Because in the comic, it'll have like an issue. And then it might have, let's say, a newspaper article where it's a straight-up newspaper article.
Or you get to read excerpts of Homeboy, the original. Yeah, you get to read excerpts of the book that people reference where they're like, oh, he outed us in this certain book. You get to read those excerpts.
Actual book, it's fucking ill. So you got into it. You got deep into the comic.
All the way. There's, and I understand that this is one season. Yes. So, of course, like, say, The Wire I love, right? Because it's like 5 seasons and you get real in-depth, and the character development over 5 seasons gets really, really in-depth. Like Star Trek, again, this is just multiple seasons. So we get, we build characters and characters. Yeah. So to be one season, to be just 9 episodes, and for us to be this involved, I think it's an incredible thing. Yeah. I just thought, and I hate picking apart the negative things, right? Yeah. Because it's so good. But then there are questions of, like, if this woman is sitting on a couch and she's an ex-superhero, why would she not jump?
When that shit fell halfway down the floor.
Before it fell. So if I'm going to the ops, or anybody I think could be the ops, and you turn around and start grabbing something, you could be grabbing a gun.
Oh, I'm jumping up.
Not just a remote control. You could be grabbing a gun. So I'm jumping, right? And especially that character, she's supposed to jump. So those little things, I was like, oh, well, that's a little not in character for her. But in the ending, I don't know if this was an ode to comic books, or if it was just the thing that I hate about comic books my whole entire life, is when the villain explains his whole plot to the hero, right? Most of the time, it's the villain explaining it to the hero of, like, this is what I'm doing. And it's really for us, the audience, right? But you don't naturally do that in real life. You just do it. Yeah. So it felt weird to me when the politician is explaining the plot to the people who made the plot. Right? The old people that's sitting there, they made the plot. Why is it necessary for him to explain? Just do it.
But see, that's what I was telling you. I think that's a tribute to, and this is a spoiler for the comic book. In the comic book, when Ozymandias does his bid ploy, when he does his bid plan, teleporting the squid into New York.
But he does it 45 minutes after he did it.
Ozymandias is the smartest person on the planet.
Right. Yeah.
Senator Kane is an idiot.
Right.
And for the audience, I mean, it's not the spoiler alert, but it's just like, yo, when he did that in the book, he's explaining that whole thing, and they're like, oh, okay, well, this is what's going on. And he's like, y'all think I'm dumb?
Yeah.
Like, I pushed the button 45 minutes ago. Right. Like, you wouldn't explain yourself.
No, but he's an idiot. And that's supposed to be, I think that was a tribute to the comic and to show how dumb this motherfucker is. Because as soon as he started talking, I was like, okay, he's not going to do it.
He's done.
He's not going to win this, you know?
I feel like
you could have set that up a little bit better, and we knew that whatever was going on, that the Asian lady was basically planning that whole thing. She's like, I'm gonna let y'all do this and gather all this. Basically, you're doing the work for me, right? I didn't have to build the box. Y'all got all the watches together. I got y'all doing all of that without me even lifting a finger, right? But I also don't understand, again, why no one rushed this little lady. She's
Lady True?
Yeah, like she's just standing there, And it's just like, I don't care. Okay, they show you like, we took the guns away and we transported them somewhere different.
Yeah.
But still, no one rushes her.
Yeah.
Like, this is the end result of your plan that has been going on for I don't know how long. Nobody just rushes her and her people. You're supposed to have soldiers. They're supposed to be about it. Like, what happened? How come they just standing there listening to this?
They not about it. Like, after they were bewildered after taking their guns, so they were kind of just
teleported.
and
Well, after
teleported.
Okay.
They were just
After
standing
the
there.
teleportation, you are stunned for a bit. They
And
have
sick.
made that point. You know what I mean? That you can't kind of like move after you. And even
Usually throw up.
the daughter,
Yeah,
the
what's
daughter
the big deal?
hates it because she's like, you know what I mean? Every time when she got transported to her mother in the comic and when they go to the funeral, right? She's like, her mother says, I would have think by now you would get used to that sort of traveling. She's like, no, I'm never used to it, right?
Right.
So we know that there's a physical effect to your body. But still, it's just like nobody tried to like just physically rush this woman.
Also, listen, at this point, when you think about it, like these I call them KKK members, white supremacist members,
Right.
whatever. They are like the typical, you give them a gun, now they feel like they got it, but as soon as you take their weapon away, all of a sudden they don't have that power no more. And I think besides just the physical stuff about being transported, they're not about it. They're not really trained. They're not really these people who are going to do, like you said, do the obvious, which is just rush her. They're not about that life whatsoever. I really don't think they are.
Why? This is another point. Why is it necessary for the blood to seep into the cage in order for him to transport people? Right? He's
organic matter, because remember he said earlier,
episodes
before, he said when he was not episodes before, but when he explained to Angela about his power. Remember Angela asked him, could you pass your powers on to somebody?
Right.
He said, well, if I put this is paraphrasing, my powers into some organic material, technically, I could transfer my powers.
But that's the transfer of power. But he can use his power on all matter though.
But he couldn't get through the cage.
He couldn't get through the cage, but the matter came to him. Blood is matter.
It's
okay. So does the cage stop his power? Because then at the end of the day,
he can't get out. It didn't say it stopped his power. It just said he can't get out. Clearly, he still has the power. He just can't get out of the cage. That doesn't mean if something enters the cage with him that he can't use the power. There was nobody ever said he didn't got no power. Say what?
There's air in the cage. Air is matter.
Air.
So why can't he? Again, we're picking apart. We're picking something apart that is almost perfect, and it's a really good series. I'm just making these little key points because my whole thing was like, okay, how is he going to wrap this up? And I felt like I didn't get a true, real, like all the way in explanation of what's Silverface's name?
Lube Man?
No, Looking Glass.
Looking Glass. I didn't get a pure explanation because it's just like, okay, he took the mask and he's there, he's trying to infiltrate them, but he kind of didn't do shit. So he's just sitting there like, yo, I could pop them. I'm gonna get us out of here, right? But then when she's like, all right, we'll start busting. He's like, okay, well then what?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well then, what was your plan to get y'all out of here?
He that much for it, dog. He got that far.
So when you put it like that, what was his point of being there?
Yeah.
But like at the same time, he was trying to do something, and when he got there, he realized, shit. Like these motherfuckers just teleported a motherfucker in front of me.
And if you think about it that way, to Ben's point, then you could argue, be like, that's your friend. Why would you not show up to try to save them?
Yeah,
Why would Looking Glass not try to show up and save Lori and the rest of them?
Yeah, he's trying, but and also
he didn't know who was going to be there.
I think Looking Glass went there for revenge. It wasn't about like it wasn't about no. He was like, oh, y'all came for me, I'm coming for y'all.
Yes,
and then he got there and was like, shit.
Right.
It answered my question on whether or not he was part of them, because there was an angle where I was like, okay, he could be part of them. He could be a plant, right?
Yeah.
He could have been the whole time working with them, and then when it seemed like because what is weird to me is that now it answers my question that he can be wrong. So if you remember, the fat guy was in the pod, right?
Yep.
And you don't see him interrogating him, but you see him walking them out, and he clears them. He says, "Okay, this guy's clear," but that fat guy is obviously one of the white supremacists. So he was wrong.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
well, Looking Glass, I think I was thinking about him. I don't think he was ever really right. I think he was like off in the head, and they were using that whole pod thing.
But they were making him seem like he was right because it was like, okay, again, these are people. The point that they're making is that your common things can become superpowers, right? If you train them enough. The smartest man in the world doesn't have a superpower. It's just a lot of intelligence. And what they're saying with Looking Glass is that, okay, I can tell that you're lying because I'm trained to do that.
Yes.
I can look at the twitches in your eye. I can look at the way you respond to things, which obviously on the outside makes him perfect for market research, right? When everybody's sitting in there and they're like, oh, we love this commercial about going back to New York. And he's like, yo, they're all lying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're building him as a character to say that he has that ability.
Yep.
And he was actually right the other times when we saw him interrogate people.
Mm-hmm.
But also you 100 that's the same fat dude? Because it could be
Go back and watch it.
Yeah, it could be a bunch of fat dudes.
No, no, that was the point. That was the point. It's the exact same guy. Go back and watch it.
All right,
So when he first busts into, when he grabs the fake gun, he thinks it's real, but when they set him up and he grabs the gun out of the truck,
Yeah.
and he busting on him the first time,
Yeah.
that guy is standing there. He's in there with them. Go back and watch it again. That guy's that was my first time of seeing it. Be like, oh, well, is he wrong?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I thought he could have been part of the plot, but it answered my question. But then it just makes it so that he's wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
But overall, it was a great thing. It was like so many angles that we don't normally see. You know what I'm saying? And it's beyond just. I've been hearing a lot of people, obviously because there's such a black twist to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love that. We're just like, yo, we love these sort of stories. When are these stories going to be in the comics that we love? So the basic, number one, off of Black Wall Street. Number two, to have the idea that reparations is already done in their time period. And it's done on a city and state basis versus a national basis, right? That thing is ill. When she's actually going in and she gets the acorn, and puts the acorn in the imaging machine, it's that perfect thing of what sci-fi does, because now that someone thought that up, we're going to actually have that in the future. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to make that. Just the way that you're looking at your lineage that way is ill. Or again, like when she's walking down the street to get to that place, you got members of the Nation of Islam that's just standing on the corner, not slinging bean pies, not selling papers. They just normal parts of society. So much so that you got to catch that. Like it's just brothers standing there with bow ties and nobody's focused on it. The artwork behind them is all black. Like everything about that was like super black. It also showcases like the turn of what can happen if you start doing to the oppressor what they did to you. Right. So then now we obviously see that all the black people in this town, in Tulsa, have now gotten to the point where they're above everybody else in society. So now we go to the point where if you have a lower class of white people living in what we think is a trailer park or whatever that is, now you can see how the cops can just come raid them. Nobody cares. You got other cops that's kind of like, yo, y'all wilding, but it still goes on. This is the way we're treated. You know what I mean? So it's just like you're looking at, does the power corrupt totally, right? In that form. It is the mask, but it's also just a thing of what you're allowed to do to lower parts of society. Just period.
But that's saying like police in general, like even in real life, police is a mask. Once
absolutely.
You put on the badge, that's like putting on a mask, so no one can touch you.
Absolutely.
You have every right to do whatever you want, and no one can do anything against you.
Right. Or you're the best way to put it is like you're an agent of the Matrix. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. It's just like when you say the law or the man or whatever, the actual physical tentacle of that is the guy walking down the street in blue with a badge on. So it's just like, once you put that badge on, it does become sort of the mask thing.
We were talking about this on the Instagram Live when I was, because, the KRS-One, officer from Overseer.
Yes.
And that's what, you were all shocked when I said it, but I'm like, yo, that's where it comes from. The overseers were who overlooked the slaves, and now the officers are the ones who overlooked the servants.
But it was still
Do you still feel, after this conversation, you still feel it was mid?
No, I feel better about it now that I've actually read the comic and I see the story, the way that the story is told. Okay. And then I also, and I said this to Ben, I also have to remind myself of the fact that this is fantasy, right? Meaning like in certain science fiction that I love it to be based in reality. So there are times, and comic books are not that. They are supposed to be our fantasies, right? And the way that there's people with superpowers, that's not based in reality. Yeah. But it's me having to re-examine it and re-look at it because I wanted a different outcome. So it was, it was sort of like me having to say, okay, I have to bow down to the way that they wrote this. I also, I love the metaphors, and again, it took me a couple episodes, and I love it because I'm sitting there, and immediately I have the same questions that everybody else has, where it's just like, all right, what is this egg reference? Why we keep referencing eggs constantly, right? And to be able to take it and to have double and triple entendres for the egg, because the egg not only is the thing of what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Yep. And then it's not for me to spoil it, but it's just like, in my mind, my scientific mind is like, you've always answered that question with neither. No, whatever species that predated the chicken is what came before the chicken and the egg. The chicken evolved out of another species.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a mute question. But it's a great analogy of the egg, of what happens with time, specifically with her and the grandfather, because she asked that question, which then sets the grandfather into motion about knowing that this man, had this suit in his closet. Yeah. But if she never asked that question, he would have never known that to say it to her.
That's similar to what I was telling Ben on the live when I was like, this reminds me of the Schrodinger's cat situation where the cat is both dead and alive in this box, which you would never know unless you look at it or whatever. Right. And similar to how I mentioned how perception of time, how Manhattan lives. Like he see everything is true and everything is false at the same time. Like everything is real and everything's not. So it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I also don't. He makes a very specific point that he's not omnipotent. He can only see his timeline.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Which then brings you to the ultimate point of us as human beings, which is choice. Right? So when you say he could have did more, or he learns the value of life at a certain point, right? Yep. He has to love a woman in order to learn the value of life. Because we go to that statement of him saying, well, there's, theoretically no difference between a live body and a dead body, right? To him, it's just the same thing. But once you get that attachment, that emotion, it's like, okay, now I understand what life is. Or you can then say, okay, well, which I thought was just so ill, where they actually said it and he was like, well, don't all relationships end in tragedy? And it's just like, well, if you look at it as, well, yeah, they kind of do, but it makes you value the time period of the relationship that much more. So it may seem weird if he's saying to somebody and being like, yo, here's the situation. Here's your man. He comes at you and he's totally honest. He's like, yo, we're going to rock out for 10 years and then that's it. Right? From the gate of the relationship. He's like, yo, but if you think about it, isn't that kind of what everybody is saying when they get into a relationship? Because there's a time limit. Whether or not that's 50 years, 60 years, you're married for it's going to end in some either y'all going to break up, which is going to be a tragedy, or one of y'all going to die, which is going to be a tragedy. So it's going to end in it, but
the difference is you don't know the time period. When someone sits there and say 10 years, you're like, and you're thinking that the whole time?
Well, you're taking into account how much time you have. He's being completely honest. So it's like, so then I naturally ask this question. At what number does it make it agreeable for you? If I say, okay, 11 years, 20 years, 30 years, you get the point of what I'm saying?
Right, it's never agreeable.
By entering into the relationship, you are ultimately looking at the end of it, because that's what I thought was so ill about it. He was just like, when he said that, I had to pause for a second. I was just like, yo, he's right. He's right. Like they all end in trap. But that thing of, I would rather trade the tragedy for the lifetime of connection with this person. I'm building a life with this person. I'm experiencing things with this person. I have this, again, I go back to the Matrix where you're discussing love with computers and Neo going, oh, okay, well, I just never heard a computer talk about love. And the Indian dude's laughing. He's like, it's not, that's just your word for it, right? What I'm talking about is a connection.
Oh, yeah.
The connection is what this thing really is. And that's the whole point. We live life with this connection, knowing that everything is finite. If not, you should just murder yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the point. You want to live life. And in actuality, is a disrespect to your life to fast forward to the end. It's like, yo, I'm supposed to take and nourish every second of life. Be present in every moment. Know that no day is promised. Know that, like, this is a blessing for me to wake. When people say these things, they sound cliche. It's a blessing for me to wake up every day. But it really is. So it's just like, value that and place the value in the time that you have with somebody versus like, yo, this is going to end in tragedy. I don't know if that's necessarily like the viewpoint that I would look at it from, but it is a real statement.
And not only that, it's like what you just said, like Angela in her situation had never had stability in her life.
Right.
It had always been craziness and uncertainty and things coming out of nowhere.
Right.
Woman shows up, says, I'm going to take you back to America. Everything going to be great. Dies.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Parents just chilling one day, get blown up. So she never had nothing.
And the reality,
Manhattan walking up to her, that shit was wild.
Yeah. And the reality of the things that you really want, because when she walks into the morgue, she's like, all right, here's these 3 people that ain't nobody gonna trace them, right? So then he's like, I get the feeling that you ain't really telling me what you, it's like you in a relationship when you saying to that person, like, what is it you, break down the walls. What is it you really want? And if you honest, you're going to be like, well, I do want somebody that looks really good. You know what I'm saying? So she, you know what I'm saying? I would like to be attracted to the girl that I'm with. Yep. So the same for her. She's like, now she pulls out this black dude and he's like, if you want that, then that's easy. Like I
Yeah.
can do, but so now she's physically attracted to the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's getting not only just a stability, like she's getting everything. Like they sex is amazing. They not even like you know what I mean? That's not even the question of their thing of riding together. Like
Yep.
that part of it is being so honest with the partner that is just like you get every single thing in what you want. But again, it's that thing of now that we know that she made an agreement. Like, okay, I know that I am conscious that this is going to end in 10 years, right? So I'm still willing to
Make
do
the
it.
best of it.
Yeah, because I've never had it.
That's why, and that's why I keep saying, I think to me, one of the biggest themes about Watchmen is that it's a love story
Yes.
above everything else. And I think that, people, that's what we were talking about the mystery box and, the idea that you can't have mysteries anymore. And I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what makes it great is because you have all these mysteries, but in the end, the mysteries are going to end. Someone to figure it out. But that love story is that connection, like you were talking about earlier. That's what people are going to get from it. When you see these two characters who are in love, and when someone tells you got 10 years,
Right.
what are you going to do with those 10 years?
I would have liked to know why he chose her though.
That's
That's
the
what
thing.
I want to know.
But that's also like in the comic, he chooses Lori just because
Right.
Lori walks by and he's like,
Yeah.
"Shh,
I get
hottie."
it. Yeah, and I get it. I get it. I would have just liked to know like what was their connection, or we never got the explanation of why he specifically chose her that day. Like if he comes back, well, when we say back to the earth, he was never really gone, right? He was still there. But what makes him pick Vietnam? What makes him pick that moment? What makes him pick like all of those things? Because if you just fought a war in Vietnam, you know what I'm saying? Wouldn't you want to leave? Like you like, okay, he still has regret from killing all these people. He's trying to impress the United States government. So wouldn't you just be out? Like
I agree, but isn't it also he sees his own timeline, so he's fulfilling his own timeline, like
That's-
the Doctor
that's-
Strange,
but
like
he's
the
a-
Doctor Strange effect. Like he's like, I see what has to happen. I have to do things a certain way in order for that to happen.
That's the thing. It's like it's tough because it's such a weird way of not even weird. It's such a like Grant Morrison talks about it a lot when he talks about comic books being a two-dimensional medium, right?
Yes.
In a two-dimensional medium, we flip through the pages, we can see any character's life. We can see their beginning, we can see their end, we can stop, we can fast forward, we can do whatever we want with someone's life. So that's how Manhattan is a four-dimensional being where he sees time, the same way we read a book. So he's seeing it like that. He's like, but is it the idea that he can flip to the end, or is it that he is writing it as it goes along, or is it already written, and he's just going through the steps?
that's where we get into what has been explored so much in sci-fi, alternate timelines, and saying that in quantum physics or quantum mechanics that there's an infinite amount of timelines, all depending on everyone's choice. Like his choice of your choice of wearing that sweater today affects my life just as much as the butterfly effect, right? The smallest thing could affect whatever. Like you're wearing a Stranger Things sweatshirt, which may make me go home and like watch another episode or rewatch something. You never know what the effect of what you're doing has on the rest of the world. So if you're saying, billions and billions and billions of people all making decisions affect our timeline, when we get into time travel, that's why we say it breaks off into another timeline versus like this being the ultimate thing. Then there's arguments of even when you break that timeline, the way the universe is going to, if there's a ripple in the pond and the pond has to like settle back into being, it's going to ultimately bring you back to the original timeline because it has to be that way.
So that's how it is. And like, I used to have this like mental discussion in my own head when I was a kid where I would sit there and be like, and I've even had this argument outside with other people where I'm like, okay, let's say this, like you were just saying, let's say you're standing on a corner and you decide, okay, I'm going to walk across the street or I'm going to stay on this side of the street. And those two decisions could change your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely, right? But you don't know. And because you chose one of them, it is what it is.
Right. And that's
There's
the point.
only one thing.
That's the point. So I'll give you a prime example of how one decision can change your life, right? So I'm literally in DC and I used to DJ the Ibex and be like the hip hop guy on reggae night at the Ibex, right? So I was cool with the people at the Ibex. So one just random night, the fellas is like, yo, it's a weeknight. And the fellas is like, yo, let's just go out. We don't got nowhere to go. I'm like, let's go to the Ibex so I can get in free. We can, whatever. So I go to the Ibex, and even while I'm in there, all my friends are at a table, and I decide to go to the bar at a very specific moment and order a drink.
Yep.
The person that I'm ordering the drink from ends up becoming the mother of my children. What happens if I did not go out that night? What happens if I didn't go to the bar and order that drink at that specific moment? What happened if I didn't have that exact conversation? I wouldn't have my children, then I wouldn't have, life would have been so much different. Just based off of, I don't feel like going out tonight, y'all. Like that one decision changes your whole life.
And because you made that one decision, though, it's like it's impossible to us as three-dimensional beings, whatever, to see the other side, to see like, okay, well, what if I didn't make that decision?
Right.
So there is just that decision. There's just
that's what
thing.
I believe, but that's a belief. You know what I'm saying? So you never know, because you won't be able to experience anything else
until we get a time machine.
Yeah, other than this time. But even still,
we
it's
don't.
just like
we
you don't know
can't comprehend
what.
it.
Yeah, what timeline?
Did the time machine come first? Then that's the other thing. Like because
I don't think as humans we are meant to comprehend. Like to me, time represents a frontier. You know how they talk about space and underwater. Deep space. Deep sea. It's just certain frontiers that we are not able to comprehend fully.
It is a concept that we fully accept that we can't define.
Yeah.
Right? We can't define what time is. So it is a measurement, but I understand it as a measurement, but a measurement of what, I'm not quite sure. And no one can give me a definition of that without using the word time. So you can't really define what time is. It's just a concept. In the same way that numbers are a concept, in the same way that the alphabet is a concept, or symbols of something else. You know what I mean? Like
everybody's reality is breaking off right now. Listening, all of a sudden, their whole car is shaking right now. They're
I mean, it really is. So if you look at numbers, the number, you know what I mean? The number itself is a symbol to represent something.
Yeah.
Or use language, for example, is better because then it's easier to understand. A isn't really A. It is there as a symbol to represent the sound of going ah. Right? B is not really
and
B.
English.
And that's just English.
Just English.
Like
right.
there's you know what I mean? There's however many languages on the planet to transfer concepts. Then there's certain concepts, like, the easiest one, like Eskimos, like their knowledge of ice and the way that they describe it is different than the way that we describe it. Versus like people get into depth of what the concept is and don't really understand what they're really talking about. But time is that one thing. But there's also this really ill thing. This is why, again, my TV show is the greatest television show of all time. I'll keep repeating this. That in season 7, the very last episode of Next Generation, when the Q was talking to Picard says something where he's just like, maybe time and space is very simple compared to the human experience. Where he's saying that in the future, figuring out time, figuring out space, figuring out all these things will be just mathematics versus like people still, the universe still cannot figure out human beings.
And what does this,
and
what is life?
What makes us what we are. That's the whole point. The Q is, for 7 years, has just been messing with human beings just to figure out like, what is it about them that makes them the way that they are? We've lost that, and they trying to figure that out. So I don't know. It's more of a mystery to me of what human beings are than it is about time.
All right. I think we need to take a quick break right here, and we'll be right back with some more For All Nerds Show.
Hey guys, it's Allison Williams. I'm an actor, and when I am not scaring people on screen, I am hanging out with For All Nerds and listening to their show.
Hey guys, this is Rod and Karen of the Blackout Tales podcast, and when we aren't doing one of our many podcasts, we are listening to For All Nerds.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Asante, 1/3 of the Friend Zone, and when I am not smoking pot or playing Shinobi Striker, I am listening to For All Nerds. Tune in.
What's up, everybody? This is Chuck Creekmer, aka Jigsaw from allhiphop.com, and when I'm not placing my heavy hand on the world of hip-hop culture, I'm watching For All Nerds.
Hey, this is Logan Browning, and when I'm not trying to take over Netflix, I'm listening to For All Nerds.
Yo, what up? This is Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. I play Black Manta in the Aquaman movies. And when I'm not getting around the city, I'm chilling, listening to For All Nerds.
What's up, y'all? This is N. Stephen Harris, fire artist, co-creator of Aztec, fire artist on Ajala, The Fringe, Michael Cray, Watson and Holmes. Don't forget Watson and Holmes, award winner of Watson and Holmes Glyph Award. Eisner nominated. When I'm not drawing, I am listening to For All Nerds. Check it, y'all.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Lee, director of Night School, and when I'm not directing, writing, and producing, and editing and spending time with my kids, I'm listening to For All Nerds.
Hey, this is Pamela Ribbon, and when I'm not writing things like My Boyfriend is a Bear or Ralph Breaks the Internet, I am listening to For All Nerds.
Yo, what's up? This is Chico Leo, and when I'm not leading an Athenian revolt in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm listening to For All Nerds.
And welcome back to this episode of ForAllNerds Show. We have the one and only Young Guru sitting here, and we was finishing talking about Watchmen. We said a lot, but there's still something else you have.
No, there's a lot. There's a lot.
I mean, we could go on all day and night about this show. So.
Well, again, I want to reinforce that number one is, to me, the best spinoff ever.
Yeah, that's something
that will, in actuality, make people go back and appreciate it. This spinoff makes me appreciate the movie better. Number one. Number two, I think this is people outside of us, outside of the nerds and outside of the people that live in comics will be drawn to. I tweeted that I hope people understand that this is a glimpse of why we love comics. That the concepts are not childish things. These are all concepts that are in comic books that I think the outside world will now be drawn into, more than just like action hero, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, you know what I mean, sort of thing.
No, like I tell people that, like, if you haven't read the Watchmen comic and you love the show, you need to do it. Like, you just need to do it. It is like Damon Lindelof, when he was on here, he called it one of the top pieces of fiction ever created.
No, absolutely.
And I think that it's it's definitely in my top 10 comic books of all time, and it's just stunning.
Now, here's my question though.
Yep.
The kid that's sitting next to the newspaper guy.
In the comic.
No, not in the comic. I'm well aware in the comic, but in the show, is he reading a Black Panther?
Yeah,
because it's not called Black Panther in the comic. It's another
similar.
it's another black character.
On the show?
Yeah, on the show, is he reading a Black Panther? I got to go back and look at that detail.
Or is he reading the Black Pirate?
Because that's what it was called
in the comic.
Yes.
In the comic, the little kid is reading this other comic book called
the Black Pirate. Yes,
yeah, Tales of the Black Freighter.
Yes, I gotta look at that. But my overall point that I don't want people to miss though is that egg thing is not just about the time period. It's not just about just like when she's talking to her grandfather and we're talking about what came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's also about the breaking of the yolk, and it's about how you do have to scramble some eggs in order. I mean, you got to break some eggs in order to make this omelet. But it's also about when he says, "I can put my power into anything organic," right? So if you take the symbol of him putting the power in the egg, right, that's a huge symbol for just life in general. Yeah. Right? Because now he's putting the power in the egg. She's supposed to consume the egg, and then now she has the power. But it's also saying to you that the culmination of your grandparenting and your parenting is all putting the DNA into the egg. Right? When the sperm hits the egg, that is the same exact thing. Now you have all the, we don't have it as direct as taking a drug, so we can specifically see our grandparents' experience, but we do get their experience through our DNA. So that is the symbolic way of us saying all of the good, the bad, the trauma, everything is passed down is through DNA. And those are very specific ideas that I don't think a lot of people think about.
No, and there's so much too, because another thing that I really want to talk about before we get off Watchmen is, I saw someone tweeting about it today. They're talking about how they were kind of upset with the ending because they felt like, why didn't they, once again, we're spoiling everything if you haven't realized that yet. Why didn't they show Angela's foot turn blue or something? Because he's like, you ended yet another show with the destruction of a black couple, right?
That's a stretch.
I think that's reaching. It's like it's destruction of a black couple.
But okay, look, on screen there was a black couple and one of them died.
Sure, but my thing is, after everything you've seen after 9 episodes, that's your takeaway from it. That's what do you think is the final takeaway? I'm not saying it's fine if that's what you thought.
Yeah.
But that was your final takeaway after everything.
I mean, if it again, as a fan, it leaves it open for me to say, okay, there could possibly be a season 2, which I don't really know if I want to see her as him. I don't know if I want to see that. But it's a very HBO thing to do, right?
Yes.
Which is like leave it open.
Yeah.
And that's part of like, I don't know, sometimes I disagree with that. I hated the way that Sopranos ended. I just thought that was horrible. I hated the way that obviously Game of Thrones ended. That was like a whole season of horrible.
That's a different type
right?
of
That's a whole different thing of just the writing was bad. But this is open-ended, so it's just like it could be or it couldn't be. You know what I mean? She could also fall straight into the water. You never know.
Yes.
That fits in with the DNA of the show that we've been talking about for the last 28 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's the same thing about Dr. Manhattan. It's the thing about time. It could be or it couldn't be. Like, it to me, it all aligned. So, and it was expected. I told you, I knew 15 minutes before it happened. I'm like, they are going to cut the fucking camera as soon as she gets her foot in the thing.
Right.
And it
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. But what I was saying, maybe my point I wanted to make about that is that, especially lately, I've seen a lot of things where, okay, like something like Queen and Slim, right? I still haven't seen Queen and Slim.
Me neither.
But I know a lot of people are upset. Spoilers to everybody because I got it spoiled for me.
No, well, do you have to?
I mean, Jesus, you know what happens at the end.
But I'm trying not to make it real.
Okay, but you know what happens. And that was my
Yes,
thing.
I know
like,
what happens at the end,
Like
yes.
Queen and Slim is a Bonnie and Clyde, a Thelma and Louise story.
Right.
In all these stories, the protagonists get killed at the end. You know, both Thelma and Louise and Queen and Slim were drawn into their adventure, whatever. They didn't make it. Bonnie and Clyde robbed banks, you know, so they were doing it. But these people got caught into this. But at the end, they still get killed. And it bugs me when we say that we want fully realized characters on screen, but we don't want things to happen to them. You know, like we want them to get away.
That's what you were saying earlier today.
Again, which makes The Wire such an incredible show.
Yes.
Not to deflect, but I'm saying that is one of the reasons why I love The Wire so much, because it is a very realistic portrayal of what happens in each of those instances. Or the ultimate thing of it is like if you are looking at this person who we wouldn't normally root for, this gay black man, who is the most morally centered person in the whole show. Not to say that what he's doing is correct. No. It's just that he lives by a very specific moral code that he tells you, and he doesn't break his morals, right? But then it also comes with the inability to see. Yeah. Right? Because he doesn't see the danger in Kennard. Yep. He literally, if you look at that scene, he looks at Kennard and then turns
Shrugs
back.
off like nothing.
And he doesn't even shrug it off. He doesn't even look at it like, oh, that's a danger.
Yeah.
He looks, he sees, oh, little kid, and then comes back to buying his cigarettes, and Kennard is the one who pops them. Yep. And that's how it normally happens.
Yes.
You don't see the danger. Or Kennard, coming from his perspective, is saying, oh, okay, him, that's Omar, that's the guy that I hear that y'all fear, that makes everybody run, this limping ass like him.
Yep.
You know, it's perspective. So it's just like that, the reality of what happens is that's what makes that show so incredible.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, as much as you love Omar, I mean, as much as you love Stringer Bell, anyone, bad things happen to people.
That was supposed to happen to Stringer Bell.
I mean, obviously, the dude had done nothing but trash.
Yes.
And then
Stringer Bell breaks every single rule. And he also doesn't abide by what he is being taught. First of all, you're number two.
Yep.
Number, you know what I mean? That's the first thing. You're number two. Then you're going against what your main person told you to do all the time because he has experience in it and he knows what he doesn't know.
Yep.
And it hurts him more when you could say, yo, Stringer, you ain't hard, but that don't hurt Stringer. When he told Stringer, you not hard enough for this right here, but you not smart enough for that right. That hurt him. That hurt him.
Crushed him.
He said, yeah, he took our money. He said, yeah, I seen it coming.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wanted to go back to your point just because I wanted to make the distinction that while there is potentially a contingent of people who are unrealistically saying, like, I don't want bad things to happen to people of color, because again, that actually defeats the purpose of having that person be a whole character, having a whole experience. There are also people who that's not what they're saying. They're saying that there is a dearth of stories that get put out there where we people of color happen to always, get the bad one at the end all the time. And they're saying that from a majority perspective. That's all. There is a valid reason.
When we get into maturity of writing, when we get to what our end goal is, and what our end goal is that my skin should not be a factor in what the story is or what's going on. Now, is there a reality that we bring into it to say, okay, well, these are part of the Black experience of us being marginalized in this country, and we need to tell that story? Yes, we're absolutely saying that. But when we get to a point where we're telling a story where the color of the skin doesn't really matter. The only reason that it really matters is because we're talking about a travesty that happened in this country at a particular time. That's why it matters. But if you get to a point where we're telling stories just about characters, then in order for them to be real people or full characters, like you keep saying, then some tragedy has to happen.
And I definitely agree with, and I know which
tragedies on different scales I can see. So, for example, the example people use when they say about the ones that have the valid reason, where they're like they want to see more than just suffering and trauma. They're talking about things like, for example, happy-go-lucky type story where it's about a teenage black girl that has a crazy day in high school, those stories, those movies that are or the Judd Apatow type movies where they're not really about anything. It's like that one day something crazy happens.
I get those. That's not my twist. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, yes, I had fun with it and I watch it and it was a cool movie, but it's nothing to me like The Breakfast Club. So The Breakfast Club is a way better movie because it gets into in-depth I went to school with all those characters that are in The Breakfast Club because I went to a white high school, right? I know every single one of those characters. And what The Breakfast Club did for me and my black friends was we know all the character traits of us in the hood. And to be able to break down on the other side and be like, well, this is what these people go through. No, they not dealing with maybe like life or death situations a lot of times that we deal with, but there are these different character developments inside of them. I'm just using Breakfast Club as an example of movie that came out at almost like in the exact same period, dealing with the same type of thing of these like white high school kids and what they do. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is like, cool little jokey comedy. Whereas like when you really get into it, Breakfast Club is about like all these different personalities and how they interact and like the fact that like the girl keeps it real with him at the end and was just like, yo. So he's like, what happens Monday? And she's like, I'm gonna probably walk past you. Like she keeps it funky, you know what I mean? Like, and that's fair. The point for these people is that where are those movies? The movies where it's just like, for example, I haven't seen a movie about my experience just growing up playing video games, black girl, and if I had a movie just about that one day in the life of like those day in the life, those slice of lives where it is the black girl that likes anime, or it is about the black boy that's sitting here trying to come up with the mini machine and do all this stuff, like right.
And they're not saying that we don't want bad things to happen. It's just that we're also on top of that, where are the stories that are just straight up
that
about
perspective I agree with.
Yeah, I agree completely with this. I'm the same person who sits on here and is like, I don't go see slave movies. I don't go see movies where it involves prison. I still haven't seen Queen and Slim because I was like, whatever. You don't
see slave movies. Why? Because you tired of hearing that story?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And I feel like it's never done right because once again, going back to the idea of time. The only time that I've ever seen it portrayed right is in the season of American Gods when Mr. Nancy Orlando Jones gives his speech to the slaves and sits there and tells them, in 100 years, you're going to be fucked. In 200 years, you're going to be fucked. 300 years, you're going to be fucked. In 400 years, your descendants are going to be getting shot by the cops. Right. So you better go outside and burn this fucking boat down right now because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like this, then that's what I'm saying.
So then let me ask this question though. Do you realize that like George Washington gets taught every year in primary school, right? Do you realize that, right?
Yeah.
Every year we tell the story of George Washington to a new group of kids. So you're saying you never want to hear a Harriet Tubman story ever? They should never hear the story of this woman who freed a bunch of slaves?
I just want to see the other stories. Why don't we ever see? We don't see it. The only time we've seen it recently and that I can think of is Wakanda, and that's still a fake country. Like we don't see Africa as Africa,
right?
But we see Rome as Rome all day.
Okay,
right.
I get that point.
Right.
I get that point.
And but the only thing you hear about Africa is y'all slaves.
No, I get it.
And that bugs me out. And it's like I don't. In fact, no, I don't. Because in the history books, like if kids go into school right now, they get
So you want the story? You want the
history.
stories of Africa prior to 1492.
Yes.
You want when the Moors was ruling Europe.
Yeah.
You want all those stories.
Yeah, I want all those stories.
Okay,
I would
cool.
fuck with
And then I
stories
can
like
see because I don't think we need. We were having this discussion about the descendant of slavery hashtag and these people who are like we're descendants of slaves and all this, and it's like. Yes, we are, but we're a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to show the other side of it because people need to be able to see themselves as more than just slaves.
Right.
That's why I feel like the slave movies, and that's what I mean. I'm trying to think of what the only other one that
I'm
I
just
really
bringing
enjoy.
up a point that history still needs to be discussed, or certain directors gravitate towards certain things. We have certain directors out here that they just make war movies over and over and over again and talk about all these different experiences in the war. We know that that's their thing. Like certain, you know what I mean? We know those directors, right?
We know one big one right now that hates Marvel movies, apparently. So
you know what I'm saying? Or just like those things get taught over and over again. So at the same time that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go see it just because it's a slave movie. I just want it to be a good movie. I want it to be done correctly.
That's my point. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't feel they're ever done correctly.
Okay.
Like, American Gods was one, and off the top of my head, I'm blanking right now. I cannot remember the only other one that I really...
See, that's my problem. That's my problem.
Underground.
Underground was the only other one.
Have you ever watched Underground?
I haven't seen it.
Fire.
I mean, it's too late now. It got pulled off the air after Sinclair.
You can get the bootleg.
But you can get the bootleg.
Yeah.
It's worth watching.
I can find anything.
Yeah.
It's worth watching.
So worth watching. Like, there's an episode of that where they have Harriet Tubman giving the speech. The whole episode
played by Isha Hines.
Okay.
It's a monologue. The whole episode is a monologue. 60 minutes of monologue.
That monologue was
and this woman eats
fire.
it alive.
Okay.
And and that's what I'm saying. And that's all people need to see is that episode. Because people need to understand, like, that's what I mean. I like things like the 13th by Ava DuVernay. It shows you slavery never ends in America.
Yeah, of course.
That's what bugs me about the slave movies is 12 years a slave. And then he goes home to his family, and that's the end of the movie. No, I want to see the movie that starts when that nigga goes home to his family and can't live because he's lived 12 years a slave.
Okay, that's another point of...
I want to see...
not to go back,
Mm-hmm.
but that's another point of... I just don't understand how you could kill off all the white supremacists and then go home with the kids. and nobody's rushing their house.
That was
like
weird
nobody's
to me.
Like there's no repercussions from that. You just killed off the whole leadership.
They mourning. I don't know. You know.
I don't know about that.
No, they killed off not
You
just
can't just go home.
Not just the flunkies. You killed off
the
leadership,
which means that everybody that was down with the movement was there and got that's no. It's like people.
That's one cell out of
people
many.
People would start rushing your house.
Yeah.
Like you're not, and we know where you live. Like we know. Who
maybe
you are
everybody
now.
who knew where she lived right there was there.
I don't know about that. That's another question though. You don't just get to go home and like mess with the eggs.
And by the time, but see that's the thing. By the time they get there, she gonna eat the egg, and maybe they got another problem.
Not to pick at it. It's a great show.
All right, well,
Dr. East New York.
Yeah, let's move into one of our favorite segments on the show. We got Guru here sitting with us. The Geekwently Asked Questions.
The guac is extra.
Where we answer any and all.
Were you laughing before we? Are you looking at him?
Guac is extra.
Yeah, the Geekwently Asked Questions. It all makes sense. It all comes together. We answer any and all questions. If you have a question for us, you can hit us up, contact@forallnerds.com, or hit us on the Twitters @forallnerds, or on Instagram, any socials @forallnerds. Hit us up, send us your questions. And what do we have up first tonight?
The first comes from someone who says, please don't use my government name. So
Big JL.
We're calling them Big JL. Big JL writes, thank you for putting out consistently good content week in and week out. It's definitely been both entertaining and educational for a novice like myself. Thank you for listening.
Word.
My question is this: how to deal with snobby comic book people? I ask this because I recently had a bad experience calling a comic book store to ask for the Crisis comics because I got into the Arrowverse show a couple of years back and I recently got into comics about a year ago. I saw a tweet saying that Walmart was releasing a Crisis book because of the Crossovers episode. Since I wanted to support a local comic book store, I decided to call one near my house to see if they had it. First thing dude tells me is, whatever you watched on TV, I assure you the comic isn't the same. Fair enough. I tell him I'm just starting to get into comics and I don't know much about it anyway, but I remember hearing about it coming out back in the 80s. He tells me to hold on and see if they have it. My man puts down the phone and asks his coworker to see if they had it, and I hear him say in the background,
oh, shit.
I told him it wouldn't be the same as the CW shows, but some people aren't so smart.
God damn!
The guy gets back on the phone with him. Our writer continues and says, I thanked him when he told me the price and that they had it in stock, but I never went. I'm currently reading The Long Halloween on DC Universe, so I'll just try to look for Crisis there. Is this a case of bad luck, or is this some sort of accepted part of comic book fan culture? I mean, it doesn't bother me so much because this dude is smart enough to inform me about how Crisis is different, but he forgets to, block the fact that he thinks I'm stupid. So no real hard feelings, but they definitely lost my business.
No, that's what you're supposed to do. If somebody gives you bad service, you're not supposed to get them your business. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And that's not indicative. It's just like you ran into the wrong person. But people in this world do have strong opinions, but you have to also do this. I can transfer this to music. You know, like if somebody literally comes to me and says, well, Guru, what equipment should I get? And I'm like, oh, here goes this question, because that's almost like asking somebody, well, what car should I get? There's like so many factors in that thing that it's just like, okay, but if somebody's coming to me and saying, I'm inexperienced, I'm just getting into this, I just kind of need to record my vocals, you know what I mean? And I'll ask a series of questions after that, especially because I know that this person is a newbie. So it's just like, okay, well, if you're recording vocals, is there any time you're ever going to record any trumpets, any guitars, any basses? Like what's the extent?
But your response includes consideration.
Exactly, that's my point.
This person was not. This person said it's not the same as CW show, and then when he put the guy on hold, he said, "Oh, this nigga's stupid." Like that's basically what he said.
And that's what I'm saying. You're getting bad service. That's the whole point. And at the end of the day, this person works at a store that is trying to sell something. And at this point in time, it's about to be 2020. You got to understand that people have so many ways to not support your store. Yes. Like I can go online and I can buy
Amazon.
books. Yeah, I can do it so many ways. So somebody's consciously saying, yo, I want to support local business. I want to support a brick and mortar. I want to have that experience of, for me, the same way that I support, my local stores, or when I understand the experience in when we have things like a comic book store, that the people that work there have a greater understanding of a broader range of things because they work at the store, not just the things that I've focused on my whole life. The same way that when people used to beat dig and they go into an actual store, the people that work at that store know more about records than you. They just naturally do from working in a record store. Or you may be digging next to somebody that's like, yo, they not making hip hop, but they know everything about this particular type of record. You're going to get those experiences. So, you just ran into the wrong person, but I think that's on the store, and you did the right thing of saying, yo, I'm just not going to shop there.
Yeah. And to answer that other part of the question, they were like, is this part of comic book culture? I would say it's just part of culture and life in general, similar to what you're saying. Like in any medium, in anything where there could be a level of expertise, you're going to run into the gatekeepers or the self-imposed gatekeepers. You're going to run into people who are assholes, really, at the end of the day.
And will try to place their opinion on you.
Yup.
So you run into that in video games when you literally go and be like, yo, let me get this video game. And the guy's like, it's not really that good. Why are you getting... Yo, bro, I just asked you. I didn't ask your opinion. I already researched the game. I know what I want.
I came here to buy it.
Yeah, let me get the game.
I'll never forget, though, when I walked into a store once and I wanted NBA Live, right? And this was when 2K was coming up.
Oh, and they told you I hated NBA Live.
And no, but this was like, NBA Live was still popping, but this was the last year.
Okay.
And dude was like, nah, man, you want 2K. And I was like, whatever, B. And he was like, all right, well, do this. Buy the used version so you can bring it back, because you're going to bring it back. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm buying NBA. Bought it.
Did you bring it back?
I was so happy he wasn't there the next day when I bought that shit. Like the very next day, I was so happy that man wasn't there. I brought that shit
That's crazy.
the next day, and I've been buying 2K ever since. Like, yeah, that was that.
Yeah. So no, and also the tiny other part of this. No, it's not accepted. It's just a thing.
Yeah,
that's just whack.
It's a thing.
You don't accept disrespect from nobody.
No.
Hopefully, you live in a big enough city where there's another comic book store, and I would say try there, because it's like you said, that's a great experience being in a dope comic book store. Like, you get to talk to people, you'll find other people like you. Some of them have meetups and all type of shit.
And you can randomly, it's the same thing. You could randomly just stumble on something. As much as we harp on like story here, there's also the artwork part of it where you're just like so drawn to somebody's artwork where you're just like, yo, this cover just got, and then you start flipping and like you may not even love the story, but you learn a new artist that you're like, this person is incredible. That's another aspect of comic books, is the artwork.
And then you'll follow that person to maybe a story that is incredible. You never know.
Right. So keep going. You're good. Sorry you ran into an asshole. The next one comes from Quiet Stormborn, aka M Peaches and Cream. She writes, we know this is a this is a Patreon subscriber. Thank you. She said, "Love you guys." She writes, something at Watchmen that we didn't get into the other night is the idea of creating a utopic society. Question: if everyone in the world could be programmed to love each other, would you want that? And would you care if the love you received from others was programmed? By the way, our IG after show that Ben Amin and I did was great. And Tatiana, don't get mad. I watched the finale again, and her feet were indeed turning blue.
No,
they weren't.
No,
fam.
they weren't.
You wanted to see her feet turn blue, so they was turning blue.
They didn't turn blue.
We can argue all day. I will be on live this Sunday. Let's argue. But yeah, so let's go back to the question. If everyone in the world could be programmed to love each other, would you want that?
No, first of all, that's not the definition of utopia.
Yeah.
So when you get into it again, and I think y'all gonna understand this theme that keeps running through my brain, is that in Star Trek,
live long and prosper.
We have gotten to the point where we've gotten beyond money, where we've gotten beyond the need to work for food, right? Because there's replicators, there's no money system, right?
So there's no famine.
So there's no famine, there's no war, there's no reason for any of that because we've done what a government is supposed to do, and we get to a world government, but it's also to supply the basic needs of everybody on the planet, right? We make sure that everybody here can eat, clothe themselves, and has food and shelter. Yep. Right? That's it. That's the basic needs. That is utopia. Now, you're never going to take away personal human interaction. Right? You're never going to take away that me and you walk into the club or we walk into anywhere and we both like this girl and the girl likes you, but she don't like me, so I'm jealous now. You can't take that away from human beings. Yeah. You can't take away human emotion. So there's no way of saying, yo, you're going to put love. That just doesn't exist. Everybody can't love everybody. That's just not what utopia is. But what we do want is equality, right? And and equity, almost equity more than equality, right? Because equality can sometimes be unequal.
Yes.
If everybody has the same playing field, then people with different needs their needs aren't met. So it's really more about equity than it is equality. But that's what my version of utopia is where we're in the Star Trek world to where we've gotten beyond just the basic needs of human beings. But you can't make everybody love everybody. That just doesn't exist.
Okay, and would you care if the love you receive from others was programmed? Like I was
programmed.
programmed.
Absolutely.
Everyone
I
around you.
don't want that. I absolutely don't want that. To me, that's the fake like the rich dude that goes, yeah, I know the girl is only with me because I'm rich, but I'm rich, so that's why she's with me. And I'm like, in my hood, you a sucker, you a trick. Like the only reason she with you is because you got money. It's not really you. It's not based off of you. Or like, people in the music business that deal with the groupies. That's just like, yo, like it doesn't matter who you are. It's the position you hold. So she gonna be with the next person in that position next week when they roll through in the town. It's not you not special then. It's nothing about that position that is enticing to me. Yeah. It's just about the position or about like security of money. That person is not with you for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That to me, that's programmed love. That's like, you know what I mean? They're in love with the position or the situation.
That's a very good analogy.
Yeah, no, I agree with Guru on that one. Like, no, I would not want program love. And I think that's even been dealt with in a comic book. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it's like where someone visits a world where they are just programmed to love. And you just see
it was in Watchmen.
I'm about to say to bring it back to Watchmen.
On the Jupiter moon. That's
what makes him mad. Is like, yo, like y'all are just here to serve me. At first it was cool.
Yeah.
But then it's just like, yeah, but it ain't no challenge.
Going crazy, he said.
Yeah, because there's no challenge.
Yeah, because there's no challenge, there's no chase, there's no reason behind it. You just do it because that is what you cannot do. Like he said at one point, he's like, do you doubt it or something? And dude's like, no. And he's like, no, you can't doubt. You're not programmed to have doubt.
Yeah, you won't even, you can't, if you, or even at the end, he keeps it funky with him where the guy's just like, am I a worthy opponent? And he's just like, no, you're not.
So
like, no.
No, my nigga, bye.
No, you was trash the whole time. I'm the smartest man in the world. You just trying to keep me from eating some tomatoes off a tree.
You can't shoot the animals. You can't eat the tomatoes.
They never explain why the tomatoes grow on trees, though.
And they never, what was the explanation of smashing the tomatoes in his face?
That whole thing and yelling the spoons at him. But why were they doing that?
If he wasn't supposed to touch it, it's like, I'm going to put this on your face.
So is that supposed to be a little? No, but is that supposed to be a little indicative of the tree of Adam and Eve and the apple and like the
potentially
yeah you're in this garden but you're told you cannot eat of this fruit.
Potentially, because when Manhattan was explaining how he created that area on the Jupiter moon, he the way he expressed it, or the way that story was expressed, was that was an Adam and Eve situation.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could see that too, potentially.
And almost like the people when he is a kid and he's watching those two people make love.
Yes.
He's like, that is kind of what birthed the thing. So it's just like that is the Adam and Eve of his purpose of I'm gonna create something beautiful.
It's a whole many double entendres, triple entendres. Tomatoes have mad seeds.
Right.
Seeds,
Yeah. Absolutely.
all that shit.
But still, why they going on trees?
I don't know. I didn't even think about that, Ben.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, that was the first thing when he rolled up and plucked that
like,
bitch
wait a
off the
minute.
tree. I'm like, wait a minute, no, tomatoes grow on vines.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no,
all
that ain't right.
The next question comes from this is a long one. Okay. Mexicana Jones, aka Tomb Raider of the Lost Arkham, aka Dr. Afropunk.
That's good AKAs.
I like the Dr. Afropunk.
See, now that was giving this person trouble.
No,
when we
Dr.
first said
Afropunk
this
is
stuff.
fire though.
All right.
Tomb Raider of the Lost Arkham is.
I like that. No,
You
that's
like that?
all
All
right.
right.
See, no, Ben wasn't giving them nothing.
Tomb Raider of the Lost Arkham.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
crazy. That's fire. That's fire.
All right, well, Guru
Fire.
approves. So
All
there
right.
we go.
So the question goes, with the DC animated movie Red Sun coming out, what are the odds of DC making it into a live action movie?
Never, motherfucker.
And would it be half as good as the animated one?
If we go, yeah,
and more no.
yeah. If we go by history, no.
No chance.
Never ever. Never in the history of ever, and that's a negative.
Have you ever read Red Sun?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah,
Jesus
love it.
Christ,
Love it.
right?
As someone on Twitter said, every time they say Red Sun, Tatiana go off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off again.
Yeah, I don't
My
think so.
favorite.
Yeah.
This is just my personal opinion, and I've said this many times. DC is really good with the television shows and not so good with the movies.
Yeah.
And Marvel is the opposite. Marvel is
Yeah.
good with the movies and not good with the
DC's good with
television
animated movies.
Yes, animated movies
and
too, as well.
television though, because the CW, like they just did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's
No, I was agreeing. I was
it's
adding on.
it's so
animated movies.
goofy, but it's still really.
But you're allowed
solid.
you're allowed to do things with animation that you can't do in real life.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
And showing Superman as a Russian is one of them.
yeah.
Is that supposed to be Russian Batman then? Because he was wearing
it's
the
Russian
Komsky.
Batman.
Had the-
You read
okay.
the- you read
Yeah,
the
no, I
joint.
know. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying, is that really? Are they doing it like straight
It looked
up?
like they're doing straight up, and that's
Okay.
what I'm loving because it. You know, they had the Russian Batman with the furry hat.
I wasn't sure because at first, like, there were some breakdowns in the accent because there were certain scenes where it seemed like Superman had more of an American accent, then he was speaking more like a Russian accent, and they were going back and forth, and I was just like, wait, like I didn't know whether that was just.
Might be when he's speaking to Americans.
I don't know. It was just
Yeah.
like something was off, and I was like,
It's just wrong, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everything seemed to be like straight from the comic.
Okay.
I was catching major scenes, and I don't want to spoil shit, but there were definitely scenes in there where I was like, oh yeah, that happens, and you know, it ends as it ends, and definitely one of the best comics you can ever read about Superman if you've never checked it out. Superman, Red Sun, and it's only like 4 issues total. It's a short ass graphic novel
It's such
that
a
is
good story.
super fire
God
right
damn,
there.
it's such a good story. That is it for the Guac this week. Again, if you have a question, whether it be about geek or pop culture, or maybe it's about a personal thing going on in your life and you want some advice, or you just want a different opinion, hit us up, contact@forallnerds.com on the emails if you want a little bit of privacy or you have a long question. Also, you can hit us up on the interwebs @forallnerds on social. Also, go to forallnerds.com. In the sidebar and in the footer, there is a Guac form. You can fill that out, tell us your AKAs, and for all you know, Young Guru might answer your question.
Absolutely.
Or prove your AKA.
Or approve your AKA.
All right, now earlier we were definitely talking Watchmen. I think we've gotten everything out for now that we want to get about it. But I did want to, you know, me and Guru, you know, we talk a lot. You know, we have long, in-depth conversations.
Absolutely.
And in one of them, he was, you know, we've been watching The Mandalorian, and both have been enjoying
Y'all like The
it.
Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I love The Mandalorian. New episode actually drops by the time you hear this. They're dropping another one tonight now,
Right.
instead of Friday
Oh.
this week.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're dropping
Because of
one
the holiday?
Yeah, they're dropping
Can
one
I just
tonight
ask one
and
question
one on
on
Christmas.
At what point did it become that the Mandalorians don't take, or is it just the Mandalorian of not taking off the helmet and this is the way? When did that happen?
That's some new shit. It seems like because
Well, I thought. See, for people who didn't know it better anyway, I
Yeah.
thought that always was like.
Oh no. In the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians take off their helmet all the time.
And what's her name on Rebels doesn't have her helmet on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like Sabine, right? I think
Yes,
that's what-
Sabine.
Yeah, Sabine doesn't have her helmet on. But there's also from the history of Star Wars, there's like 3 different. Well, this is now the 3rd history of the Mandalorians.
Right, and so that's the question. Is it
like a generation?
No.
What
I'm
are
saying,
they taking from the old histories?
Yeah, what history are we referring to? Because
Yeah.
are we referring to canon or legend?
Or is this a new canon now that they're establishing?
I would just say a new canon because, and again, using things like Rogue One as the example, Rogue One opened the door to say anything is canon. Like, when I say anything, I mean the books, the comics, the animation, movies, all that stuff.
But
So,
is anything?
No,
canon?
but see, okay, that's the thing. Before Disney, let's say this, before Disney, there was the expanded universe.
Right, which we now call legend. Let's be clear.
Where they had all these books that
Yes.
were written by all these different authors,
Yes.
and a lot of it contradicts each other at some point.
Right.
There's some really good stuff.
But we also did have George come in and say, look, this is the stuff that is accepted.
Yep.
right, but then I also feel like now in the modern times, they're saying all that is also accepted.
No. She came in, homegirl came in.
Kathleen Kennedy comes in.
Comes in and said, wipe all that clean.
All that shit was legends.
Yeah,
all that shit was
that-
legends.
just legends.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just, it's cool if you like it, if you think that's real, but that ain't what
it's
happened.
not canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So which
now
leaves it open for her writers to write whatever they want. So now only what's on Disney Plus
is
canon.
canon. Yeah, so
Okay,
like
so then this is the
Clone
new
Wars.
canon. Shit, then
Yeah.
it's new canon.
all the Clone Wars, Rebels,
But in the Clone
Resistance.
Wars, when I'm sorry, not Anakin, when Obi-Wan is kind of like he falls in love with the woman that is the leader of the planet where the Mandalorians are from. In that whole episode, men and women both have their helmets off. They both have their helmets off. So in the Clone Wars, those Mandalorians rock without helmets. They put them on when it's time to fight.
Yeah.
But they also take
What
them off.
time period is it in?
This is
compared
Clone
happening.
Wars.
This is before.
Right, but compared to what's happening
This is
in the
before
Mandalorian
episode
show.
3. This is before episode 3. This is after the Clone Wars is after episode 2, before episode 3.
Right,
And
and what
this
time
is
period is the Mandalorian in?
After episode 3.
After episode.
So could something have changed with that?
No, after episode 6.
I'm saying after episode 6.
So could have something
Yeah.
has changed
No,
generationally
and that's
where
my question. Is what I'm saying is what has come about that makes them say that we don't now. What we do know now is that the Mandalorians are driven underground
That's what
because
I'm saying.
they're almost
Yep.
like destroyed.
There was a purge.
I
Right,
think it's
there's a
because they're
purge of
being
them.
hunted now.
Right,
that
there's
they
a,
have to
right.
do
There's
that.
a purge of them. But then when they say this is the way,
Yeah.
right? That when did that come into account? That's my question.
Yeah. Because it seems like Mando, our hero, is like he was born into, or well, he wasn't born into it, but once he
was
became into
ushered
it,
in as
Yes.
the way was already established.
Yes,
like
exactly.
that was like something that was
Exactly.
before him.
Yes.
It was already there. So, but that is the question. But on another note, we were talking about Yoda. And I know you had this theory about Yoda.
or Baby Yoda?
Well,
Which
we,
No, Yoda. Not.
Oh.
And first of all, let's be
No,
clear.
no, I know. I already know.
Yeah.
That's not Yoda. I get that. We not. It's
Oh,
only because no disrespect to you. I've just been arguing about this. with
Oh
people
no, yeah.
forever.
I wasn't going to that point. I was saying of what we're talking about in terms of Yoda. Like, how far do you want me to get into it? Like,
Go into it. This is an educational series right now. ForAllNerds
where
is educational.
and I'll let Ben finish because he can set up the question probably better. You set up the question how you want to say, and I'll answer your question.
Yeah, well, we were discussing Baby Yoda, and first we were talking about something that we both had an issue with because Baby Yoda in the series is supposed to be 50 years old.
Yes,
and
he is 50 years.
He is
50 years old, but Yoda in Empire Strikes Back is around 900 something.
Yeah.
No, Yoda is exactly 900.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean,
So
says when you
if
get
we
to
do,
900,
if we do, if we do the
You
math,
stop counting after
yeah, no,
888.
if we do the math, Yoda is 900 years old.
Yep.
Right? Then it is known that Yoda has trained Jedi for 800 years.
Yep.
Which means that Yoda was training Jedi when he was 100 years old. Which means that there's no way that he's a fully formed adult.
Training Jedi.
If 50 looks like that.
If 50 looks like that, and what I said was this thing looks more like a little toddler to me.
Yes.
I mean, it walks
What
and
if he
things.
age up like a Pokemon? Like once you hit that 100,
That's what I
It
said.
could be-
you pop
that's the
out.
only
Like-
explanation.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
my
only
only
explanation
explanation.
because we know that Yoda starts training Jedi at 100 years old. So this kid is going to have to really grow a lot in the next 50 years in order to be, you know what I'm saying, at the mature.
He's going to be like a sitcom kid where one season he a baby and the next season he's
exactly.
like 5 years old.
Yeah, it's just
why he
off.
got
It's just
chest
off
hair?
a little bit. It's off a little bit. But go ahead.
But
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
but because of that, we were speaking about Yoda, and you were telling me that you had this. We know that. All right, first of all, full disclosure, Guru is a big fan of Star Wars.
Yes, I am an absolute fan of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which makes me analyze Star
Yes.
Wars, which makes me then go, y'all are worshiping a false god.
And now this is where this theory comes in, and
And
so happy.
Yoda is comparable to the Catholic Church.
Wow!
Think about it.
Now,
First of all, he's a priest. Yoda is a priest. They're all priests.
Yes.
Right? You're not allowed to have a woman.
Yep.
Very interested in young kids.
Yep.
Like super interested. We get
Gotta
them,
be super young.
Yeah, super young.
Yeah, we don't take them at a certain age. Nah, we
get them super young. But what you have to realize is that the way that the Jedi are right now is not the only way that Jedi can be. Yoda, as the Grand Master, has instituted all of this stuff, right? Period.
Yep.
It's Yoda as the Grand Master that brings in this way of living. Jedi don't have to be in robes. They don't have to be priests. There was a time period where they didn't wear robes and they weren't priests and they had partners and they were allowed to love and they were allowed to do all of these things. He is instituting this nonsense, right? Number one. Number two is if you go to the overall ideas of a Jedi, I totally disagree with them.
Okay,
right?
wait.
Like let's do this. I'll say this, right? Let's go.
Where we going? Where we going?
All right. There is no emotion. There is peace. That's a lie.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
Cat.
That's the number one. That is the
That's
first
the first
thing that you have to worship.
tenet of the
the
Jedi?
first tenet of being a Jedi. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. It's not true.
Yeah, because
It's just not
without
true.
one, you can't have the other.
Which you just hit on the head of where I'm going to go with this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. There is no passion. There is serenity. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Right. There is no chaos. There is harmony. A lie.
Big
right?
cat.
There is no death. There is the Force. These
Kinda
are
true.
That
last
was
one-
nope. That's not true.
Well,
to them because
them,
they still
because when
ghost.
they
Hold on,
die, they
listen,
ghosted,
listen,
right? They
listen.
said ghosted.
Nobody know, but back
Hold on,
then they
listen,
didn't, though. That's the
listen.
other thing.
This is no. Okay,
Force
okay,
ghost is a
hold on.
recent thing.
Hold on. Let me get to a point. Let me get to a point. In order for you, and I can go all the way from, but I'm gonna just deal with that one topic.
Yep.
In order for Yoda to learn how to manifest himself after death.
Yep.
Right? This is in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go through a series of trials where they are reminding him, you arrogant motherfucker, that there is still evil inside of you. He thinks his arrogance of the time period that he's been a Jedi, he's like, I'm a Jedi. What? 800 years I've been doing this. Like, I got this under control. And they like, yo, it's still in you. You haven't wiped out all the negative. You just are controlling it. And it isn't until he's fighting a shadow that he doesn't know what the shadow is, right? And then once he sees it as his negative self, then he can defeat it because he just absorbs it. And it's like, yo, it is a part of me. He had to be reminded of that because he's super arrogant. His power has gotten him to the point of arrogance, which is what happens all the time. You keep thinking your one way is the way and you keep preaching this way. But in actuality, Yoda is the reason they fucked up.
No,
let me show you. Hold on. Let me show you exactly.
this,
Let me show you exactly where this happens. Yoda gets warned.
Yep.
He gets warned mad times about, yo, this is going to happen. He has premonition about it. If you get into the new book, Master and Apprentice, right? He sends out one of the Jedi to go collect the Sith holocrons.
Yes.
Right? And this person starts coming back and warning Yoda like, yo, they ain't gone, fam. We need to be doing something. He chooses to do nothing. His attitude is like, whatever. It's like, whatever. He gets warned a bunch of times. If you look in the Clone Wars where he has this vision, right? Where he sees all of them get wiped out. But to Yoda, he's supposed to let his friends die. Look what happens. If Luke would have followed Yoda, they will all be dead. What does he tell Luke? When Luke falls, right? And he says, oh my God, he has the vision of Leia being messed up and he has the vision of Han Solo being messed up. What does Yoda tell him? Don't go.
Yeah.
Don't go. He's like, yo, I can't get this vision out of my head. He's like, I gotta save my friends. He's like, he turns to him and when Obi-Wan is like, yo, Obi-Wan is at least saying, yo, trust in the Force, be patient, do this, patience. And he turns to them, he's like, and sacrifice Han and Leia? And Yoda says, if you believe in what they fight for, yes. Yes.
He said, if you want to hold that.
Yeah, if you believe in what they fight for, yes, let your friends die. Now, it is Luke's going against what Yoda says that actually allows him to win.
Mm-hmm.
The person who keeps trying to adhere to Yoda gets turned to the dark side.
But all right,
hold on. When I come, hold on, let me get into it though. Let me get into it. Okay. Right? Here's my point. And this is the point that you made. You are in essence creating the anti to what you profess that you're trying to do. The whole thing that Jedis are supposed to be dealing with is balance of the Force. We're supposed to be balanced. You can't balance something that you're only on one side. You're such an extremist on this one side that you're not dealing with the negative, or I don't even want to call it negative. You're not dealing with the dark side of the Force. So by not dealing with it, you make yourself susceptible to not even be able to recognize it. He done made the Jedi so weak that the nigga that you trying to get is sitting in front of you and you can't even see it.
He says, it's like he's walking down the street, you not even think about it.
He says at a certain point, he's like, why can't I call his name? Samuel Jackson's character, my favorite. Mace Windu says, yo, fam, I think it's time for us to tell everybody that our power has diminished so much that we can't, and what is Yoda's? Lie.
Yeah.
Lie. Every time Yoda is presented with something, lie about it. Hide it. Push it away.
Move that priest to another district.
Move that priest to another district. Lie.
I mean,
hold on. When
I got it.
Ben, when he's presented with the fact that they know early, now through the Clone Wars, that what we are accepting, this is accepted canon.
Yep.
When he's presented with the idea and the proof that someone made
illegal clone army.
Made the clones, what does he say? Oh, lie. Hide it. He said, the clones have saved my life on more than one occasion. I can't do this to them.
They ain't do nothing bad to me.
I can't do this to them. Lie about it. Hide it.
They never stole from me.
This is his whole point.
I never got touched.
This is his whole point. There's information. There's information all throughout their libraries that they don't let. You have to be of certain levels to get to certain information. Then there's information that even the high-ranking Jedi can't get to that are locked away. That only Yoda and a couple people can go in and get. You're hiding the information. What are you doing? You're saying my child is not mature enough to deal with these certain topics, so I'm gonna just hide it away from them, which creates the imbalance. There was a time period before they were called Jedi, they were called Jedi, right? And the Jedi practiced both sides. They practiced dealing with the dark and the light, and they were very balanced human beings. But what happens is people start taking the dark side information and they go a little too far. This is when we then have the Jedi internal war, right? And we have a civil war inside of the Jedi, right? The light side wins. So the light side starts rejecting all of the studying of the neck because they're scared. They're like, yo, if we even touch this, right? But the reason that Mace Windu is so powerful is because he studied both sides. That's why he could create the seventh form, which Yoda didn't want him to create. Number one, because he's like, yo, it's too close to the dark side. That's why he has a purple sword. He's mastered that seventh side. Yoda is the reason why they are so weak. That's the whole reason why they're weak, is because of Yoda's philosophy, right? So Yoda, in putting this together, really does what we do to most men. It's what Bell Hooks talks about when it says that men are taught to not deal with their emotions. They're taught tough it out. That's what a man's supposed to do. Suck it up. Nah. If I don't even acknowledge this emotion, that I have this emotion, how can I deal with it? How can I understand what's going on? When Anakin goes to this dude like, yo, I know what the teachings are. I'm being honest with you that I have these emotions. What does he say? Learn to to throw away everything that. Learn to what is his exact words? Learn to throw away everything that you stand to lose. So you basically taking a kid.
You like everything ends in tragedy.
No,
get it now.
I wrote this down where I was just like, yo,
hold down that tragedy right now, Holmes.
Okay, so I'm like, train yourself to let go of everything you fear. That's the worst advice, right?
It is the worst advice.
This is how you deal with it. There's no acknowledgement, right? Second, there should be a listening and an empathy. Like if I'm your OG and I'm listening to you and you're telling me I have these things that are going to pull me away from your teachings, right? Then you're supposed to counsel me on how I'm supposed to deal with it. Not give me some bullshit answer about like, yo, throw all this stuff away, right? And it's just like his line of reasoning doesn't make sense. Fear is not a direct line to the dark side.
It's not.
It's not. Fear is what Bob Marley said. My fear is my greatest courage. I'm scared that I might lose something, so it's gonna make me rock. If I'm scared that I can't feed my children, that's gonna be my biggest courage to be like, yo, I gotta get out here and make a way, right? Yeah. Fear is the same thing as the emotions that you need of senses. If I touch fire, it's hot, something goes to my brain and says, take your finger off of this, it's hurting you. Right? Fear is the same thing. Yeah. So you're not supposed to run away from fear, and you are making this grand assumption that the child cannot accept that, or their minds aren't capable of doing that. Like, who are you? In the end, who are you to determine the fate of all? This is why Qui-Gon Jinn is not on. Qui-Gon Jinn ain't with this bullshit. He's not. It's when Obi-Wan says that if you would just listen to what they're saying, you would be on the council.
Yep.
But he's like, I can't rock with them. I don't get down with the way that they get down. I know the real balance of the Force. Or if you keep hiding shit over and over and over again, you let the door open for somebody else to be like, yo,
look at this over here.
Look at this over here. You never, it's like, yo, if you hide porn from your kid, it's like eventually somebody gonna be like, yo, come look at this.
Check this out.
Yeah. So you gonna, that's what
you seen my OnlyFans?
My OnlyFans. If you hide liquor, like
right.
It's
anything.
And let me just say, with hearing everything you've said right now, I don't know if I fuck with Yoda no more. But it's two, I think you made a very nuanced explanation of what they always say about fear, like, or what really should be shared about fear, that it's not about avoiding it. It's not about casting it aside. It's what you do with that fear.
What you do with the fear. And the fear can drive you. It could be one of the biggest driving factors of, like, once you acknowledge the fear, then it can drive you to become better because you're afraid that you're going to end up in this spot, or you're afraid of this, so I can overcome my fear. Or, like, just every aspect of what he teaches them is wrong. It's just wrong. Like.
So wait, do you just don't fuck with Yoda, or you just?
Nah, I don't.
No,
like, but okay. Go to this thing. Like you disrespect life. So Yoda going, death is a natural part of life, where it's just like, yo, don't save your friends, don't do this, don't do that, leads to Anakin becoming Darth Vader. When Luke disobeys him over and over again, that's how Luke wins. Every time Luke is getting into something, he's tapping into his emotional state, right, to defeat it. Or he's going, yo, I don't care what you say, I'm going to save my sister and Han Solo.
Yeah.
He did it.
Yeah.
He disobeyed him and he won. So when he's fighting his father, the emotion come. Boom, he chops off his arm. And when he's about to kill him, he looks down and he's like, ooh, that's me. So then he goes, you know what? I almost went there, but you know what? I'm a civilized person. I'm not going to go that route. You lost. Because now I've tapped into the anger part, which is the seven sword style, right? Attacking, because if you go by Yoda, you're only supposed to defend yourself. You're never supposed to attack. Yeah. This is the natural question when Anakin in the Clone Wars is with the general, and the general's pointing this out to him. He's just like, yo, this is what's wrong with y'all. The enemy right there, but y'all never will kill him. How you gonna stop the war if you ain't gonna kill your enemy? Like, then what are we doing here?
Right.
What are we doing?
There's no war with no offense. Like, you gotta do something.
It gets you to the point where Anakin looks and he goes, you know what? I know there's some things they're not teaching me.
Okay, but this is my thing, right? I agree with you 100% on all that. But, and this is my problem too with Star Wars and the fandom, and what I'm really afraid is going to happen in Rise of the Skywalker. Because in the prequels, as, you know, whatever half-assed they are, what Anakin is always trying to say is this shit is trash. You know, like, this whole Jedi Order is a mistake. You know, like you just said, you're keeping me from emotion. This ain't working.
Well, just look at the kid. Yep. Look at the kid. You bring him in front. You embarrass him. The very first time that he gets in front of the council, he gets embarrassed for having emotions.
Yep.
He gets embarrassed.
Yeah.
That's their whole thing. Is that they're like, yo, your thoughts are dwelling on your mother. Right, and then he's like, "What does that got to do with anything?" And Yoda's like, "It has to do with everything because you're afraid to lose her." But if he would have listened to himself while he's having these dreams of his mother and just went and got his mother, he could have saved her.
Yeah.
His thing is that by the time he get there, he's too late.
Yep.
And then that's, again, now that he experiences that thing of being too late, makes him kirk out and kill the whole village, which is the first time that he really is tapping into that thing because he's killing women and children. He just made that point where he's like, yo, y'all are part of the people that killed my mother. I'm killing everybody. I'm taking out this whole village. First time he kills kids. First time he kills kids.
But see, that's my point, right? So Anakin spends these whole 3 movies trying to say it's wrong, gets fucked up, gets turned to the dark side, everything because they don't listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Then we come back in the sequels now, and we have, Luke being like, and that's why I love Last Jedi so much, because Luke is like, yo, this shit has to end. Look what we did. We couldn't even see the enemy who was right in front of our face.
We
effed up. Yoda's fault, pretty much. Yoda comes along and is like, burn the bush too. Yeah, I fucked up in the back in the day, but
No, but I mean, he's trying to make a point. He's trying to make a point that the information is supposed to be alive. And
yes.
And that was his joke of like, he's like, yo, burn the books. And he's like, well, did you read the book?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, then you know what's in the book. Like,
Boring.
it's not about
Not a page turner.
Yeah, it's not about those books and that thing.
Yep.
Which I was hoping that the world was saying that Yoda was learning a lesson, because Yoda had to learn certain things along the way about where he was wrong.
Mhm.
But it's also the question of later on, and again, we don't know if this is going to become canon, but in the legend in an expanded universe, when Luke then goes and starts to rebuild the Jedi and then takes on takes on Solo as a Han Solo's son, as an apprentice, he does what I was saying the original Jedi were doing. He doesn't ask them to wear robes. He doesn't. They wear regular stuff.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They have wives. They have whatever. He changes the way that the order is, which is again, it's a way of learning.
And that's what I'm hoping for is going to happen in Rise of Skywalker. I really hope that they're not going to go back and just do the same thing again, where Rey establishes a new Jedi Order and everybody starts wearing robes and they go get kids and all this stuff, because as you have so eloquently pointed out, it resembles the Catholic Church way too much.
Bro.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. Okay, have you ever asked yourself, do you know the real layout of the entire Jedi? Do you know how many councils there are?
No.
There's 4 councils.
Okay. See.
Okay.
Yep.
There's 4 councils, right? We only deal with the top level of the council, right? So let's deal with these councils, right? There's branches, right? So let's say this. You know what? I'll start here, right? You start off, and let's be clear that all Force sensitive children do not become Padawans.
That's right.
And all Padawans do not become Jedi.
Yep.
So what happens to the people that don't pass the trial? We know what happens to the people that don't. All right. So we'll say initiates, you have to go through initiate trial to become a Padawan, right?
Yep.
That's you showing your connection to the Force. That's where you got to make your lightsaber. That's all of that, right?
Yep.
Then you have to get picked, right? Padawans have to have someone to train them. If you don't get picked, then you just don't get picked, right? So then you go into the trials of knighthood, which is the of trial of insight, trial of skill, trial of spirit, trial of the flesh, trial of courage, right? If you don't make it, you get assigned to a branch within the Jedi Service Corps, right? That's just it. That's there's 4 branches to the Service Corps, right? There's the Exploratory Corps.
But you're staying a Jedi at this point? You just
you're a Jedi. You're not Jedi Knight.
Ah, okay.
The Jedi serve the Republic. That's another thing. That's another thing. You're supposed to be a religious thing, but you're serving the state, and you're doing what the state want. So many times you've created the conflict because what's the name keep telling y'all? He's like, yo, we not soldiers. We are keepers of the peace. Y'all keep putting us in this like there's a difference between a soldier and what we are. We're not supposed to be soldiering. And it's almost like where Yoda keeps yearning for the old times, where he's just like, yo, it was so much better back in the day when we wasn't fighting this war. Because Yoda
Make
is
the
not,
Jedi great again.
Yoda don't know how to fight wars. He don't. It's a
He
contradiction.
don't even know defense.
It's a contradiction to him, right? So there's an exploration corps, there's an architecture corps, educational corps, and a medical corps, right? These are all the people that are Force sensitive that don't make it. So everybody don't make it.
Yeah.
Certain people just gotta serve. Like, what? I'm gonna just come. But think about it. You've taken this person away
from their family.
any type of skill. Any type of family that they have, the very first thing that you pull somebody in, they can no longer talk to their parents ever again in life.
They don't know
You can't contact your parents. Period. We won't allow that type of attachment, right? Or if you're somebody like Ahsoka who wrongly gets accused of something that she didn't do and gets kicked out, what does Ahsoka do? She's been training ever since. You got 14-year-old kids fighting wars.
Yeah.
It's a 14-year-old girl. Anakin was rocking at 9. He's up in the plane rocking at 9, fighting a war. You got kid soldiers. We condemn this across the world.
This shit evil. It's an evil world we live in.
So let's talk about what they do, right? Number one thing they do, baby snatching. These are the Jedi recruiters. The Jedi recruiters go around the
I gotta
world.
do my research and find out what's fucked up in Star Trek.
No, hold on. I'm just telling you. Jedi recruiters go around the world because Force-sensitive children that aren't recruited are more likely to be an enemy. You can easily get turned to the dark side, and we got to check to make sure. So there are recruiters in the Jedi that go out and find the children. They're baby snatchers. Period.
You can't even he's right.
Number 2,
I can't argue.
Once you snatch the baby, they're never allowed to see their parents, right? Number 3, that age limit was introduced over time. They started learning. It wasn't that way in the beginning. The Jedi, anytime you ran into somebody Force sensitive that may not know, you was allowed to train that person because we studied both things. But if I'm trying to brainwash you, I have to start as a child. That's point blank. And let's notice where Yoda spends most of his time
with them kids.
When in the
prequels,
he's with the kids. He's with
all the time, every
all the
time, every time.
And when they get into the time when when Yoda's hearing Qui-Gon Jinn for the first time, before he even goes, when Qui-Gon Jinn is leading them on this path to understand, because they didn't understand the living force at that point. Qui-Gon Jinn, who understood balance, is the person after he dies who manifested by himself without having to be instructed.
Yeah.
Right? Qui-Gon Jinn is more powerful.
He's the first ghost.
First one. So he's telling Yoda how to do this, right? So when Yoda's hearing his voice, they think Yoda's crazy. Right? They all go to the temple, they sit down, and they meditate for a whole day. Everybody's like, we ain't hear nothing. You know what I'm saying? Right? So they put Yoda in a deprivation tank, right? They put him in a tank, and then that's when he hears Qui-Gon Jinn again. And he comes out and he was like, oh, I was talking to an old friend. And they looking at him like, talking to the dead. What you talking? They think they then go, Yoda could be susceptible to the dark side of the Force. And they like, yo, we know he's the oldest and the widest, but that does not remove you from being susceptible to the dark side. And Yoda's even like, yo, I agree with y'all. Like, I got to find out what this is on my own. Qui-Gon Jinn is the one who tells him to go to Dagobah. Right? Cool. Right after that, you have basically, like, they introduced that age limit thing for that point, right? So obviously you get to brainwashing and we want to brainwash the kids. So that we can have child soldiers, right? This is also, if you really look at the basis of what they are, they're a rogue organization that's funded by the government. The reason I say rogue is because nobody checks them.
Nope.
right?
They steal all the kyber crystals of the world. Nobody else can use kyber crystals. When kyber crystals could be powering a whole bunch of other stuff. Nah, that's us, B.
Yeah, for our
we got the we got what? We got the lock on that. That's our. That's making a decision and saying I'm taking this natural resource for myself. Period. Nobody else can rock with the kyber crystals but them. Right? That's that you had to steal kyber crystals to make the Death Star. Right? You had to get to that point. And you got this like superiority complex, right? They hold all the info, and certain Jedi can't read it. The public can't read it. Like that's you got this. Like I'm superior. I can read it, but you can. Where have we heard that before? When you steal all of our information and you put it in your stuff, and then you say no, but then you say
the slave traders now.
No,
they went from the Catholic Church to slave traders.
It's the same thing. It's when you steal all of our information. And then you tell the world, guess what? Not only can you not, fuck that, you can't read, period. We go through the dark ages because it's like, nah, reading itself is against the law. Why you know how to read? Man. Only the priests get to learn how to read.
Big brother, Catholic Church, all wrapping them.
Okay. Right? So when you say, when you're preaching against what the reality is, or your reality just doesn't make sense, when you go, yo, only the Sith deal in absolutes. Really?
Yeah. Nah, nigga, your whole shit is dealing in absolutes.
Really, fam? Your whole thing is an absolute. That's the conflict. conflict.
Yeah.
The conflict is you dealing in an absolute. So for you to say, it's just opposite to what you deal with. So for you to go, oh, only the Sith dealing. And no, that's not true, bro.
You just said that. That's an absolute.
Even the statement itself is an absolute statement.
Right?
Yo.
They're fighting for. What does he say after that? What does he say to Anakin? What does he say to Anakin when Anakin says, "I look at you as evil"? He said, "My loyalty is towards democracy." Yeah. There's no democracy in the Jedi. None. It's my way or the highway.
From my perspective, the Jedi are evil. That's like the best line in the prequels.
There's no democracy in the Jedi, bro. There's no democracy. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah, facts.
Right? It's just, I could go on for days about
I think you crushed enough hopes and dreams.
How do you feel about Star Wars now?
I mean, no, but that's the thing. The thing is, when Drew first presented this to me, it hurt me. But at the same time,
because it was true.
Yeah, I already knew it was true though. That's the thing. Like Anakin makes this point in the prequels that the Order is trash.
It's not. And again, this is why I will say this and relate it to certain things. It's not that the Order is trash. It's the same. It's the same way that religion is not trash. Yeah. It's the way it's being used and interpreted and taught. It's the way that Yoda has made the Order that makes it trash. When you say, "Yo," you start instituting all these rules, and it's really just based off of your ideas, and then we find out that your ideas are wrong.
Yeah.
So then who the fuck are you, dog, that say that this is the only way that it can be done? Who are you?
But see, that's what kills me, because then
But he's the Pope. Yeah. He is the Grand Master. He is the highest person on that council.
And that's my problem, though, because then in Last Jedi, you have this laughing Yoda who rolls up like, oh yeah, those last 900 years were pretty fucked up, right? Yeah. But hey,
don't even get me into Last Jedi of like how someone who just touches the Force can like deal with somebody who's been trained and then like that's just horrible. Like this horrible.
Oh come on, though. I mean, Luke Skywalker blows up blows up the Death Star before he's really trained.
No, I know, but that's him using the Force and using mechanical shit. And it's just like, yo, he makes a great shot. Yeah. It's not him battling another trained Jedi with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
but Kylo Ren's a fuckboy.
Or there's absolutely no way someone who the black dude, whatever his name is, picks up the lightsaber and starts rocking, and it's just like, yo, come on.
You mean Finn?
So anybody could just pick up a lightsaber and start rocking?
Finn is Force sensitive is what I'm going with.
I'm going with that too.
I'm going with that.
But you're not trained in it.
No, but
it's different.
He's that nice. And he's black.
He's not that nice. He's not that nice, bro. Nobody's that. Then there's no need to train.
No. But his blackness makes up for it.
There's no need to train. You know how long?
What? All this sense Guru in him making, you come in with, well, he black. What the fuck?
That's ridiculous.
This is why I love this show.
Yeah, but I love Rey and I love Finn and I love the sequels, whatever. So I can't knock them. But I do understand, like, but that's the thing. When you look at Star Wars in any film too much, you can find the holes and all that. But as far as this whole theory about Yoda, I fully agree with it.
I'm like,
so hold on. You have let me do my councils, right? So you have the High Council, you have the Council of First Knowledge, the Council of Reconciliation, Council of Reassignment. That's who reassigns all the Jedi after they can't make it nowhere, right?
Or whatever.
Do they get to reassign between their different?
No. Here's the
precincts?
thing. Now here's the thing. In those 4 councils, right? Yeah. There's 5 people that lead those 4. Like there's 5 people on every council. Mm-hmm. 3 of them rotate. 2 of them are there forever. They have tenure. So 2 of them are there regardless.
Like Supreme Court shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're there forever. So 3 of them rotate out, and just the same way Yoda is going to always be there until he dies.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying?
The nigga lives to 900 or
well,
more.
I mean,
beyond.
longer if he hadn't gotten murdered.
Right?
Yeah, if he hadn't, stressed himself out.
That's just what it is.
So for 9,000 years, you got an iron fist rule of the. See, now I hate this nigga now. I'm looking at Baby Yoda kind of funny. I'm looking at Baby Yoda kind of funny, but he could be totally different.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be that way, and that's my point. That's my point, is that people need to understand you're looking at a very specific time period, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Just think about this. If you go back, all the things that Jedi had to deal with, Civil War, Sith Wars, right? The Mandalorians, everybody, They survived all of that. Guess who was the leader when they got wiped out? Because he let them get wiped out. Yoda knew about it. He let them get wiped out, bro. What type of leader is
The
that?
title of this episode is Yoda Ain't Shit.
What type of leader
I'm gonna go with
is
Yoda
that?
as a priest.
What type of leader is that, man? What type of leader are you that you make us so weak that the arch enemy we're actually working for the arch enemy. He's sitting in front of us and we can't even sense it.
Maybe Yoda's like Dr. Manhattan, where he sees it all and he
Nah,
just needs.
he's definitely not. He's definitely not. He's definitely not.
He's just trying to,
He says it himself. Yo, the dark side got us so clouded, I can't see nothing. He admits to it. He admits to it.
And he still goes on about being trash.
Yeah. But this is the way you have the Jedi Order set up. It's not right. It's not right. And I don't like the fact that there's like not too many women that get the rock.
Yeah.
Like there are women on the High Council.
Yeah.
There are women in particular positions. But this is a very male-dominated thing.
And that's been my main issue and why it took me so long to get to the point of being a big Star Wars fan is because, and not just women, black women, women of color, like just a Jedi Knight. Where are they?
The black ones?
Women.
Oh, women. Yeah.
Black and black women. Like when
Uh-uh.
and this was aspirational thinking, but when they first announced Lupita, I'm like, yo, what if she's a Jedi Knight? Or what if she's this? And then she comes out to be the CGI character.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing better. We got John on the new one.
Yeah, but you think they're gonna kill her off too? That's the other part. I'm just like, you think they're gonna take her down? Like they gonna bring her in and take her down immediately?
Like they did.
Like they did.
Yeah. What's the name in Han Solo?
I don't know. It's just what I would hope for the brand is that this comes out, you get this out of the way, and then you can start writing real stories. Like you got to wrap this up. We all know, you know what I mean? I don't know if people know, but I'm sure you guys know of the turmoil that's been back and forth with directors and with her as a leader. She just needs to step down. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know if she does though. But
she does, bro. You know what this is? And this is nepotism.
Yeah.
This is nepotism. You were next to. You was the person in the studio while we was making the song. That's it. And you just been there. You was the studio manager. That's like it don't mean you can make great songs just because you manage the studio really well.
But all right, but
she was with everybody when they made their classics. That's all it is. You was, you could find the pictures of her and Spielberg together on very classic sets and all, but that don't mean you can run this thing. The reason being, Marvel's under the same house and they rocking. You messing up a brand because you trying to take it somewhere where I don't know if you really are. The person who writes the program and sends the company into millions of dollars doesn't automatically need to be the manager. You just good at writing programs. When you gotta manage something and say a direction, I don't know if Homegirl is the right fit.
No, I don't know if she's the perfect fit, but in Disney's defense, why they're keeping her around is because the films are continuing to make billions.
No, what's the name? Ain't make millions.
Han Solo. That's the only
Solo's
one.
the only one, but it also remember that's relative. Like it didn't make $1 billion, but it didn't mean it didn't make money.
Okay, so then if you got directors that's like, yo, she's the problem, she's the problem, and it's more than one person, then she's the problem. Period. And you got to make them big decisions. Did you hear when dude that was the head of Disney like yelled at her in a company meeting?
Nah.
Yeah, look that up. He called her out in a company meeting. But it's neither here nor there. My point being is I hope this comes out. It's the end to this thing, and then you can start writing some realness. And I like what they doing in terms of you can start meshing things the same way Marvel has already announced that they're going to mesh things with TV, with the movies. You're going to have, that's the way me and Ben were having this conversation of that is our natural way of reading comic books.
Yeah.
Where this book leads to this book, and then it picks up in this book, and then this book even tells you and refers, say, y'all picking up from this book, Like, it should all do that. But I don't. The
interconnectedness is
again.
important.
I'm not a Star Wars hater. I'm just like, I don't like where it's gone, and I think it's too Disney. It's too like for the kids. It's not adherent, and that's not really what it was. It became famous for telling really good coming of age stories. That's all it really is coming of age stories. But it's not. It's just not adherent to what the brand is, and that's my turnoff. And then that beyond just like me saying y'all got to analyze Yoda for what he is, right? Beyond that, I'm just saying like what the concept of the Star Wars franchise needs to be has got to change.
I agree.
Meanwhile, we waiting on Picard.
Look, we got Mandalorian. I'm good. I can't.
I like
It ain't the
Mandalorian.
best, but
It's
it's
cool,
solid.
Yeah, I think the visually,
Yeah.
it
Beautiful.
looks amazing for
Yeah.
television. It's like really watching a movie
Yeah.
as a television
There's still
show.
some
Every
shaky
I heard they
CGI,
spending
but
like
Yeah.
what per episode? Like
Like at least $1 million per episode.
they
Yeah.
could add more on the
crazy.
CGI budget.
I mean, they could, but it's good. And next season they'll add more to that budget.
Yeah.
And then we got Obi-Wan. So I'm, like I feel you because I'm the same way. Like
and then Shorty that directed
one of the better episodes is
Yeah,
running the
it's
whole
running the whole
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan
series.
joint.
So
Yes,
that's
yes,
that's a good look right there.
Yes.
So we got all that. But thank you, Guru, for joining us today.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna do some rap segment.
We haven't done a brap in
It's been a minute, so yeah, we gotta have to run through our rapid fire questions.
All right, the first one, The Wire or Breaking Bad?
Wire.
All right. Superman or Batman?
Superman.
Wakanda or Zamunda?
Wakanda.
Michael Myers, Freddy or Jason?
Freddy, just from the simple fact that like you kind of can't kill Freddy. You can't kill Freddy. Freddy's already dead, and he comes to you in your dreams. You could actually kill Jason. Jason's just a crazy dude.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Myers, you could kill him too.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
easiest.
he's the
easiest.
one to kill. Yeah, so Freddy. Yeah,
That's a good one.
They just always lock Michael up. Like they don't even
Yeah,
attempt to kill
yeah,
him.
yeah.
They just know he ain't worth shit. Like just throw his ass in jail.
Fresh Prince or Martin?
That's tough. Martin.
Teen Titans or X-Men?
X-Men.
Peter Parker or Miles Morales?
Peter Parker.
Not even gonna ask and hurt my feelings.
Go ahead. Ask it.
We already know. We've been asking for the last 45 minutes. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, come on. It's not even close.
It's not even close.
Not even close. Star Trek is the greatest show ever.
And at the end of the year, too. Thank you, girl. Magneto or Professor X?
Neither.
Wow.
Ooh,
Why not?
That's the first neither.
Yeah.
They both a little conflicted.
Mm.
Again, Professor X has a little bit of that arrogance.
Super. No,
Super
not a little bit. All of
arrogant.
it. All of it. All of it. All of it.
Super
All of
Right?
it. Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
that arrogance that I was talking about with Yoda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's the worst.
He's the worst.
Yeah, Professor X is a
of
jerk.
making those
Yeah.
decisions of being like, yo, you're the leader, but who are you? Because really Wolverine is looking at him like, yo, what is you doing to her brain? Like
Yeah.
what?
Shout out to Steph I Will, who hates Professor X. She hates that nigga.
As you should.
She
Professor
hates
X is
It's
the
like,
worst
yo,
for the
it's
most
like,
part.
Bro, like you just took a little kid and locked off a percentage of her
Her brain.
brain and said like she's not gonna be able to handle this. Which
That's
in
some Yoda
essence,
shit.
which in essence you trapped the you trapped it and,
You
and
created
like
the Phoenix Force later
yes,
on.
you created it. It's like
Yeah.
Wolverine said, like sometimes the animal don't like to be trapped. And you don't know, you are not as strong as her, number one. You know what I mean? She's way beyond you. So for you to put these psychic blocks in her brain and actually creates the Phoenix, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And what's the say? And then Wolverine, if he really wanted to, be like, yo, you a little kid to me. I'm way older than you, fam. Like, you're a little son to me. Like Wolverine could be like, yo, I'm way your senior. Like,
Way.
you know what I mean? That's sort of
Way.
thing. But
So what's your issue with Professor X?
No, Magneto.
Magneto.
No,
just,
Magneto, sorry. Yeah.
just because he's crossed the line already. Where he's just like, yo, he's been through so much in his life where he's just like, you know what? I tried it your way. I tried to be nice to these humans. They've put me through concentration camps, you know what I mean? They've put me through this and that. You use the worst emotions to pull my powers out of me. Like, you've done all of these things to me over the years, and I think he has just become that thing of like, I tried, and he's just so far gone now that he's just on that side. So neither. Who I really think the most power, the potential to be the most powerful is Rogue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rogue has the
Yes,
potential
that's
to
mine.
be the
Number
most
one.
powerful because if I can take everybody else's power, then that's almost what the
And memory.
And
yeah,
memories,
everything.
So
Like,
abilities, everything.
it's like you can become the most powerful.
Rogue
human.
was
She's
like
always been my favorite next to
Yeah.
Thorn.
Rogue was like, as a kid, that was the one for me.
That
Rogue
was the
my
one.
favorite X-Men all the way.
That red hair.
That red hair and that white stripe. Look, that white stripe did it for me. Let's see. Lex Luthor or Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom.
All right.
Dr. Doom, definitely.
Favorite superhero movie of all time?
Oh God, it's too hard to say. It's too hard to say. But I guess Black Panther is now my favorite just because of the ideas and what it did for this generation. But I don't have one particular favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who was your first geek crush? Like, yeah, who are you crushing on?
Probably
Fictional
Storm.
something? Storm?
Yeah, probably Storm.
All right.
Yeah.
What character's death in any medium hurt you the most?
Character death in any medium hurt you the most? I don't know.
Or alternatively, we're doing this new thing. What's character's death were you thrilled that they died?
I don't know about thrill. I'm trying to think of what hurt me the most. When Shorty died on Star Trek, that was with the blonde hair. What was her
That's
name?
about Kes.
No. She was early. She was a security guard. She was and then there was an episode where they kind of tried to like fake bring her back, but it was a clone of her saying that she was
Which series?
Tasha Yar.
Oh,
Tasha Yar.
I know the name.
Tasha Yar.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know
Tasha Yar.
Tasha
Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was ill because that was like, oh snap! Like people didn't die that often in superhero. You know what I mean? Or on science fiction or anything.
Other than
like,
red shirts.
Yeah, and she like her death was like, oh wow, we got to really deal. Like she's really dead, and they was like, yeah, like she's gone. Like her character's gone. That was ill. But that's kind of like the '90s. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'll say Tasha Yar.
All right. Favorite Wesley Snipes movie?
Yo, you want to know something, bro? I really do rock with Blade, son.
Yeah.
Like I rock with Blade.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's Blade 1 or Blade 2, but maybe
Both of those are fire.
Yeah, maybe
Blade 2 is when they had vampires whose mouths open all up. Yeah.
Maybe Blade.
That little dog.
Blade 1.
Is a vampire dog?
That might
Yeah,
be
it is
like
a
So,
vampire
yeah, and his mouth
Yeah.
opens up. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is Blade too. Yeah, and doesn't he like kick it or shoot it or some shit?
like that.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Comic books or hip hop. The entirety, the history of one of those has to go. Gone forever. Which one do you choose?
Then comic books have to go.
Yeah. Hip hop pay the bills.
Nah, it's not even about paying the bills.
It's
It's
just
just
about
the love.
Yeah.
It's the love of the thing. Like I could go into other science fiction genres without it being a comic book.
Yeah.
But there is no replacing hip hop in terms of like just music in my life and what that means. Like there is no replacing that. That's a tough question though, because that's like two of the things that I've really, really loved. But as a whole, comic books will have to go.
I feel you. As much as I love, I mean, it hurts to say it, but yeah, like like you said, I could always watch Star Wars, Star Trek. You know, there's mad shit, but there's nothing like scratching on a turntable. You know, there's nothing like beat machines. There's nothing like digging for records. There's nothing like hearing a new bar. Like there's,
it's
you know, that's something else. So nah.
And you can tap every other form of music by dealing with hip hop.
Yeah, no,
It's
hip
just
hop
like,
taught me every other form of music.
Yeah.
Like it taught me everything. Like, yeah.
Now, if you're saying just comic books, right?
Yeah, they're just gone.
Okay.
Yeah, but not like not
just
sci-fi,
comic
not
books.
everything
Okay,
else.
just
Yeah,
comic
yeah,
books.
just
Yeah.
comic books. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And if you could have any one superpower, what would it be?
Rogue's power. That's it. You get to absorb every other power.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Guru. You survived the interview segment. You survived the brap segment.
Wasn't an interview though? Or
No,
was
I
it-
mean, not really. Just more,
was
you
it
know.
you know.
No, we just sit down and talk. You know,
Yeah.
that's how it is here. You know, friend of the show and everything.
It was a lesson.
Yes. So please let the internets know where they can find you at.
Young Guru 763 on Instagram, and young_guru on Twitter.
Yes, sir. And any upcoming projects or anything you want to let people know about?
I'm just working, man. I've been this year just trying to mix, just step out and mix a bunch of stuff. I just did like G Herbo's project that's coming out. I got a project with Volley that I produced. Volley Contra is his official name. Just because like if you Google Volley, it's gonna give you tennis.
Yeah.
But he's super dope. We just put out a song called Candy.
Okay.
That's really, really dope. It's just a bunch of stuff, man. I just been trying to like mix and match a little bit more into just like I had time this year to like really deal with all the people that I've always been like, yo, I want to mix this, I want to mix that, you know, like and not being trapped into doing like a J album. 2017 was 444 and then a tour. You know what I mean? Like so 5 months I'm in the studio recording, then I toured. And 2018 was Everything Is Love for 5 months and then a tour. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Extensive. And even in that time, I got to do Meek's album, which, you know what I mean? Championships, which to me is one of his better albums, like probably his best album. Got nominated, whatever. I still, you know, I have Rhapsody as an artist with me and Ninth.
Fire.
So we got to put out the Eve project, and then I got to do Jadena's album. So I just been, you know what I mean, trying to do other things after I got done with making J albums.
Mm-hmm. So no more J albums?
No, I mean, eventually, I want him. I wish he would get back in, but you know that happens when it happens, or like, you know, you just let him be him. He's dealing with some, you know, dealing with the management and dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff now. So we'll see.
Enjoying life.
Yeah, enjoying life.
Yeah, as you should. All right. Well, no, this won't be our last episode of the year.
No, this may not be. I don't
think so.
We gotta drop this week.
Yeah, we still got more to come. So, you know, I think that's about it, though. We're going to get up out of here.
Yes.
Thank you, Rue, for joining us, as always.
Absolutely. My annual.
Yes, sir. And that's it, y'all. Peace.